Good evening, everyone. One. Audience of one. Good evening, fellow trustees. Good to see you tonight. This is the work session meeting of the Board of Trustees, March 11th, 2026, calling the meeting to order at 5:05 p.m. Clerk Perillo, would you please confirm the presence of a quorum?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor Shepro?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Giuliano?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Franco?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Hill?
Present.
Thank you. Trustee Ugrinsky?
Present.
Thank you. Mayor and Board, we have, of course, Treasurer Gafka with us, and Attorney Moran will be joining remotely later.
Okay, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to go into executive session. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second. Oh,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll be back. Okay, good evening. We are returning from executive session. Do we have a motion to return from executive session?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with monthly reports right now. And Clerk Perillo, I'd like to start with you.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I have several resolutions that are time-sensitive, excuse me, put my microphone on, that are time-sensitive for this meeting, and I also would like to make a couple of announcements. Of course, there will be additional resolutions to those that you see on my abbreviated report because I was out of office for a week, so apologies for that. We have some standard quote-unquote event permit applications, such as for our annual Easter Parade and Egg Hunt that will be held on the 4th of April. From 12:45 to 1:15, so that'll be included. We have a request from Save the Sound for a volunteer cleanup at Harborfront Park on the 18th of April. That's from 10:30 a.m. to noon. Two announcements. One is that we held our tax sale yesterday, and we were able to, of $66,135, all was sold. We collected about a little over $60,000, so only about $6,000 of those tax liens we're keeping. Okay, so that is excellent. It was an excellent time. I wanted to thank Kelly, Mary, and the Treasurer's Office for that result.
Sylvie, can you please move your microphone closer to you, even if it's at the side, so, thank you so much. Yeah, that's a great job, right?
Yeah.
It was very well done, so thank you to everyone. Also, just to revert back to our records management project, Jen Hildreth and I will be meeting on Tuesday up at the maintenance facility. We're going to begin the paperwork process involved with destroying what we can destroy for the court records. We're going to fill out the paperwork that we need to for the state. At the same time, call the company used by Brookhaven Town to actually begin the process of the destruction. And then, once that's done, hopefully that could even be done next week. And then once that's done, we move on to step 2, which is figuring out what happens next in terms of shredding. So I'm happy to report that there's progress there. And with that, we move on to resolution number 31126, which is a resolution approving the rehiring of the following full-time seasonal laborers at the Port Jefferson Country Club effective March 12th, 2026. Dave Gumbus at an hourly wage rate of $21 per hour. Michael Lomello at an hourly wage rate of $20 per hour. Jose Janeo at an hourly wage rate of $21.50 per hour. Noemi Nunez at an hourly wage rate of $21.50 per hour. Jose Diaz at an hourly wage rate of $22 per hour. Jose A. Diaz Jr. at an hourly wage rate of $22 per hour. Alvaro Nunez at an hourly wage rate of $22.50 per hour, Leandro A. Nunez at an hourly wage rate of $22.75 per hour, and Saul Garcia at an hourly wage rate of $24.50 per hour. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 231126, resolution approving the hiring and rehiring of the following part-time seasonal recreation aides at the Port Jefferson Country Club effective March 12th, 2026. Danny Brett at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. Dennis Maloney at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. John Zanicki at an hourly wage rate of $20 per hour. Josh Barron at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. Paul D'Amico at an hourly wage rate of $20 per hour. Tim McCabe at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. Travis Bell at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. John Steiner at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. Mateo Aparicio at an hourly wage rate of $17 per hour. That's a new hire. Michael Kiernan at an hourly wage rate of $17 per hour, new hire. Ryan Klee at an hourly wage rate of $17 per hour. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 31126, resolution approving the rehiring of the following part-time seasonal recreation aides at the Port Jefferson Country Club effective March 12th, 2026. Chris Couch at an hourly wage rate of $20 per hour. Ed Wormold at an hourly wage rate of $19 per hour. Jackie Laurie at an hourly wage rate of $19 per hour. Jim Franchini at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. Joe Nugent at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. And Peter Luker at an hourly wage rate of $19 per hour. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 31126, resolution approving the rehiring and new hiring of the following part-time seasonal pro shop office attendants at the Port Jefferson Country Club effective March 12th, 2026. James Smith at an hourly wage rate of $23 per hour. Mark Coleman at an hourly wage rate of $20 per hour. Louis Fasolini at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour. That's a new hire. Bradley Marolf at an hourly wage rate of $18 per hour, also a new hire. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Just a quick comment on all these hires. Obviously, we're gearing up for the country club activities, and spring is in the air. And just want to give a shout out to Jake Anderson and Pat Sullivan for getting everything together at this point in time so that the activities can ramp up. And there's there's quite a few new hires, not quite a few, but several new hires. And so I think that's great that Jake was able to pull that together. And with the team in your office, Sylvia, and also our benefits office, our what do you call it? Our payroll office. So it's a big enterprise, and I think the clerk's office has kind of streamlined it for these part-time seasonal hires. And so I just want to express gratitude to the village and the country club on behalf of the country club. I'm sure you might want to say a word or two too, Zena, but this is ramping up, and it's not just, hey, this is so easy. It's not just picking cherries. So I'm very happy that they were able to do this and you were able to help them.
Thank you, Mayor. We appreciate that.
Yeah, so this is a process, everyone knows, that we go through every single year. One of the differences this year that both Jake and Pat have done as part of a group exercise is really look at the staffing and optimizing that, and trying not to just hire 2 slots, but really utilize the people they already have that they knew were returning, and only add a smaller amount. So I'm pretty happy with their focus on optimizing sort of the work schedules.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 31126, resolution approving the hiring of Luke McIlvain as a full-time seasonal recreation leader at the Port Jefferson Country Club at an hourly wage rate of $34.53 per hour effective March 12th, 2026. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Do you want to talk a little bit about this position too, Zena?
Yeah, so this position is going to sort of fill a couple of holes that we've had, and allow both of the pros to spend more time with the members. And this slot is also going to help us with some in-store, in the pro shop activities that as well as some of the activities that used to be performed by Danielle Condia. And first of all, I would also like to thank her for her 9 years of service to the golf course. So as part of that change, we're looking at, again, how do we optimize the use of the employees, and how do we create a better sort of member experience inside the pro shop and allow the pros to spend more time with the members. So anything that I missed on that? But
I guess this board approves Luke. He'll be running some junior programs and activities and helping out with tournaments and things like that too. So
as well, yeah.
And Luke comes from, he just graduated, I think from some school in South Carolina or something like that, I think, with a degree in sports management.
Yes.
And he is a golfer. He's an athlete. So he comes highly recommended, and Jake is very impressed with him. So we're looking forward to welcoming him if this board approves him. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 6, 31126, resolution authorizing the use of parkland funds to purchase remaining supplies needed and account for the rental of an 80-foot boom lift to complete the softball netting project at Joe Erlin Field at no net change to the capital fund budget by authorizing Treasurer Gafka to perform attached budget transfer number 47 as follows. Decrease expenses for line item H8997-601 parkland funds by $6,000, and increase expenses for line item H71102101 Parks Capital Improvement Softball Netting by $6,000. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 7, 31126, resolution authorizing an immediate payment in the amount of $3,546.03 to the New York State Empire State Development, ESD Group, as required by the Station Street Grant Disbursement Agreement, which payment includes the required 1% of the total grant award in the amount of $3,060.42, and all out-of-pocket expenses for NYS ESD in the amount of $485.61. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 8, 31126, resolution authorizing an immediate lease payment in the amount of $9,174.51 to DeLage Landon for the new club car golf carts, all of which have been received. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 9, 31126, resolution to fund the remediation as required of Port Jefferson Country Club cart paths at no net change to the PJCC fund budget by authorizing Treasurer Gafka to perform attached budget transfer number 49 as follows. Decrease expenses for line item CR 90898, PJCC accrued liability by $7,500, and increase expenses for line item CR 7989475, annual course improvements by $7,500. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Discussion?
Okay.
I just want to point out that this is part of our 3-year plan. So this is a 3-year, disbursement for this particular, we've allocated $50,000 per year for the next 3 years to redo the cart paths. And, that's as a result of the Board of Governors asking for it on the part of the membership, and that's part of our next year's budget as well.
Zena, was that recommendation sent to the CCMAC, and did they also sign off on that?
They didn't exist at the time. They were not yet constituted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was what signed off on by the
Well,
CCMAC?
typically, if there is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a proposal from the Board of Governors, that would then go to the CCMAC. They would then review it, and then the recommendation would then come to us.
We approved the Cart Path program prior
It
to,
was part of this year's approved budget, the
Okay.
3-year plan and this year's 50,000. So this is just work that the treasurer is doing to move things around to ensure that that 50K
So this
is
was in,
covered.
I'm sorry, this was in the original budget approval for the golf course last year? Or
For this year.
For this,
This-
for this
The
fiscal
fiscal
year?
that we are in right
Correct,
now,
currently, okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
Next fiscal.
and next fiscal,
No.
and the following.
No, to start in next.
It's,
Sorry to correct you, trustee, but for next, it's in next fiscal year's budget, to be built into the next fiscal year's budget. It was part of the plan for the golf rates to include that project.
Right, sorry. You're right. Okay. I stand corrected. Okay.
this is a Band-Aid for certain areas of the cart paths that are really problematic.
I don't disagree with that.
Like where we had an accident.
I just
Yeah.
believe that, I like process, so I do like that if this resolution, because how long's the CCMAC been constituted?
No, you get to vote on the budget,
I
the
understand that.
50-50-50 for the next 3 years for cart path renovations. That'll be in the 2027 budget, right, to start?
Yeah.
That wasn't actually, that was, so Treasurer Gafka corrected
Yeah.
trustee Ugrinski's statement.
This was, yeah, so, sorry, I didn't, so correction is that this is remediation on some very necessary repairs that caused some injuries last season.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 10, 31126, resolution approving a 2-year term extension to the intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Port Jefferson and the Town of Brookhaven for the provision of fire marshal services, and authorizing Mayor Shepro to sign the agreement on behalf of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution number 11, 31126, resolution approving the parking-related recommendations of the Chamber of Commerce and Business Improvement District per the attached letters to enforce metered parking from noon through 11 p.m. and charge $1 per hour, 7 days per week for metered parking. Please note that the enforcement of metered parking continues to be from April 1st through Thanksgiving Eve, and the suspension of metered parking continues to be from Thanksgiving Day through March 31st. May I have a motion?
I'll motion for discussion.
A second?
Discussion?
So first, I'll say I'm very pleased that we're extending the time frame in which we're doing metered parking. I've mentioned it over and over and over again, or at least a handful of times. That I've been
Over and
frustrated.
over and over?
I've mentioned it at least 3 times in our meetings that I thought it was poor policy to have metered parking end at 8 p.m. because we have such a large bar and restaurant service, but that means all the patrons from the retailers and the servicers were the ones who are actually paying for parking. So I'm glad that we're spreading out the responsibility, but also hopefully lowering the cost. My only concern now is, does the $1 fit our budget? What was the impact? What's the budget impact on changing it to $1? Because I think I've said before again that there should be 3 policy goals in metered parking. 1, to encourage turnover so that we don't just have folks taking up spaces and then you can't actually get to the services and retailers and stores that you want to go to. 2, to maintain all of the parking lots and the meters themselves. And then 3, to offset the budget a little bit for residents. And I know that's not, the number 3 is a little more that the business community is a little less into number 3, but people do come and visit Port Jeff because we have the park and because we have Rocket Ship Park. Those are all things that are paid for through the tax base. So I think there's a combination of an environment that we can create to get visitors here to spur economic development, because I'm certain that when families come and visit Rocket Ship Park, they pay their parking fee, but then they're also going to stop and maybe get a coffee while their kids are playing. So there is this, we have to create the right ecosystem, and I'm just wanting to know, does the $1 fit the bill? Because we haven't had any data, and I'm very sympathetic to what the request is, and then I also just don't think it's gone to has this gone to the parking committee for it to be analyzed as well?
No, in terms of the parking committee, but Stephen has pulled together the data, so why don't you address those questions?
Thank you, Mayor. So part of, yes, lowering to the $1 an hour will obviously bring down the actual metered parking revenue itself. Because we do have actually history of data going back from when we charged from noon to 11 p.m. And that we have a good history that we bring in about 212,000 3-year average of transactions. And if you take a conservative estimate of 2.5 hours per transaction, which is what it was this past year for both weekends and weekdays, would bring in about $531,000 of metered parking revenue from the meters. Now, when you add in Danford's for their lot and the money that we receive from Danford's, and then ChargePoint, look at about 610,000, extremely conservative number. Because if they stay 3 hours, that it can go even a little bit further. So taking the conservative approach, we will see a drop in the metered parking revenue. However, code has been lights out enforcing parking and making sure that they have boots on the ground hour after hour. And we write approximately 4 tickets an hour. So extending 3 hours would bring in a little over 3,000 additional tickets from unpaid meters, which would bring in about 120,000 additional dollars just in ticket revenue for writing for the extension and making sure that that's being enforced during peak times. That I think even the Placer AI data stated that between 5 and 10 o'clock at night, there's some peak traffic times for the Village of Port Jefferson. On top of that, we're talking about the actual unmetered parking ticket itself, that to be charged at $50, which is I think already exists in the code. Historically was 30. So that's a 60% increase on what's already permitted for the village to charge for that, which would bring in another conservative estimate of 90,000. So you're looking at an extremely conservative estimate of a drop of maybe 45 to 47,000 that if the transaction time goes up just a little bit would be covered off on. If you take the conservative approach, maybe a $45,000 drop from what we had anticipated for what's in this year's budget. Combined revenue from parking fines and metered parking. If you get just a little tweak, quarter hour more, people staying and strolling and walking around, which is what the business community I think expects, you'd be flat to budget. You would bring in exactly what we brought in this year between the 2 revenue sources for all of that.
Okay, so I think what we all heard was worst case scenario, net minus $50,000. Best case scenario, net neutral.
Neutral, possibly
Or
even
possibly.
a little bit more.
Okay.
So on what you're expecting, $1.28 million, that's a very small percentage of a change.
And then one of the policies that I really liked when they were asking us to freeze the policy for 3 years was that we had a peak parking fee. So does it not make sense to charge a little bit more on the weekends? Maybe that's a question for the board.
I think that's more of a
or
policy
maybe
question for the board and
the business community as well, because if we want, to.
I mean, that would make sense.
Parking lots are full, we should make sure that we're,
Is that for turnover purposes?
yeah, well, I think exactly, yeah.
Um,
I'm not saying it has to be back up to $3.
No. I think if we are looking at parking as a managed entity and not as a profit center for the village, and we reinvest in our infrastructure, which is what I think in the origins of this metered parking program it was intended to do, and we can remain flat, I feel like this is something this is a fee that's sustainable, welcoming, and friendly to our commercial district.
Mm-hmm. And code is on till midnight for most times throughout the year, and then
And 2
2
sometimes.
a.m. On the weekends. Does it make sense to do midnight? Because if I'm coming from Stony Brook and get to the bars around 10:15, maybe I'll just roll the dice of not paying
And it costs you $50 an hour.
if you get caught in the last 29 minutes
Mhm.
from getting to your car to the bar.
And that's, so code enforcement has really turned on, their mission has, been enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
And they are enforcing. And four tickets an hour doesn't sound like a lot, but our numbers have increased exponentially from year over year, even with the court revenue that we're seeing. So I feel like we're in the right place for as the three-legged stool enforcement, affordability, if I can use that term, and also being friendly to our commercial district.
Mm-hmm.
I would tend to agree with Trustee Hill that during the peak prime areas for turnover purposes, that if we were to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just bump it up to $2 an hour, just to help promote turnover, I think it would help. And, people
Can we ask? Is that?
they're not
Are we
gonna,
allowed?
no.
Well, I don't know.
Yep,
We asked
you can have a
Karen to be on the
conversation.
bid, so. Yeah.
Thank you. What is?
Like I'm
Come on-
asking because
come
I
on
don't know,
forward.
so
Karen, come on up.
Yeah.
Oh boy, here we go.
See,
I'm
this
gonna give
way
her a
you're getting
mic.
punished for
Where do you
being
want
a
me
good
to stand?
citizen.
We have a time limit, though.
You want me to-
Just
oh,
kidding.
I need a microphone.
You should introduce
Come on,
yourself.
bring up a seat.
Can I sit here?
Sure.
Uh,
Or you should be on camera.
Oh, really? I need to come all the way up here?
It's a round table.
Come on, join us.
What do you want to know from me?
So I guess, what are your feelings, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot. So one, for folks at home that don't realize, this is Karen Sullivan. She has a beautiful shop on East Main, the
Yes.
Wellness Stop, and the board has asked her to sit on the Business Improvement District Board as
Yes.
the Board of Trustees appointee. So she happened to be in the audience tonight, so I'm putting her on the spot to help inform this conversation. So I guess the question is, what were your thoughts, or can you speak to what were the bid's thoughts on a peak pricing? Because that was one of the policies I really liked last time that we did, so.
I mean, Mayor Shepro just jumped in behind me because obviously we both were at the same last bid meeting that was on March 3rd. The main reason for the extension that we talked about in our bid meeting more was to kind of create, definitely to offset the revenue, right? But also to make it more affordable, what the mayor said. And also the extension of creating it till 11 o'clock, which I'm not opposed to midnight either, was more to create a deterrence for the congregating of the people that we
Okay.
had last year.
Yep.
So it, in our minds, it's to deter that, but it's a win-win if we can deter that and kind of creatively
generate more revenue and the gap that we're looking to fill, right? So I think personally that if you extend the time, but not necessarily increase the time on the weekends, I feel like you will still get turnover because of the fact that, does somebody really want to be hanging out at a bar for, 5-6 hours and pay that amount of money? I don't know. I don't know that. I don't really, I'm 58, so I don't really go to bars anymore. So,
Well, let me tell you something.
so I don't know.
And also, it encourages walking around, not rushing from the restaurant
Right.
to your car.
Right.
So you will,
Right.
spend some time mingling in the shops and.
Right. Now, my husband and I went to Station Yards on Saturday, and we went to Hammer and Stain and did a craft there, and then we went to Lucharitos and had tacos, which is in the same parking lot. And again, that is literally a much smaller footprint, so we're not comparing apples to apples here. I mean, parking cost me $10 for like 5 hours, because we were in Hammer and Stain for 3, and then we were in.
I thought you said you don't do the bar scene.
I was
What-
gonna say that
what-
too, yeah.
What? Well, I mean,
She
we had
slipped up.
tacos. We had tacos at Lucharitos, so tacos and seltzer. So it cost me $10 to park there.
So it was 2 an hour, or was it an escalating
It
rate?
it was weird. It was like it gave me 3 hours, and it was like $5 basically, $5.39, because I think there's like some fees in there for whatever
Credit
company
card
they're
fees.
using,
Yeah.
that kind of a thing. But it wound up, and again, I wasn't there for the full 5 hours, but I had to pay for 3 hours, and then I had to pay another 3 hours again, and I was only there for an hour and a half. And they got an hour and a half really for free because I was gone already, but I still had to pay $10 to park. So,
Yeah.
I mean, personally, when we go to Huntington, I mean, it's $1 an hour and it's easy. So if I have to renew, like on my phone, I just renew. So I like that a lot, from a patron perspective, where it's, just $1 and it's just easy to manage. But, that's just my personal opinion.
But to confirm then, you think flat dollar on the weekends is enough to continue pushing
I do. I
turnover
mean,
for people who are
obviously,
actually going to spend
yeah.
money?
I mean, I'm not on the parking committee. I mean, the parking committee might disagree with what I'm saying, but, I'm just looking at, and I'm also selfishly thinking about, my business with the weather, obviously, that we incurred, and how it completely tanked all of our businesses, really January and February, with all the snow and the ice and the bitter, bitter cold. People were not walking around down in Port Jefferson. So I'm thinking, now, how can I put catch up, for my business financially, and what is that gonna look like? You know what I'm saying, for patrons, right? To really stay in Port Jefferson for much longer hours of time. Like, how do we make it, accessible and affordable? So I would respectfully love it if we could keep it just $1 an hour, all the time.
Got it.
With whatever we decide, I guess, when we turn meters off during the holidays and stuff like that. So, yeah,
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
I would feel more comfortable if we go to $2 an hour during the weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And again, we could always have the option to make an adjustment. But I would think that, listen, let's not come up short. Let's not come up short budgetary, because we have a lot of things that we need to do as far as, and getting turnover. I really believe that if it's $1 an hour, people are just gonna sit there. So, I mean, make it a little bit, and that parking garage I was at, that same parking garage, it's $5 to just pull in there. So, I think $2, I would feel much more comfortable doing $2 an hour during the peak on the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I don't think $1 an hour is gonna promote turnover, not at all.
So you're saying you want to table it for now and do that analysis, and then
Yeah.
go back to the parking committee?
Listen,
and
parking
the
starts
bid?
April 1st.
Right.
And we need to make signs, and we need, there's a business a component to this too.
If you're asking me, I would vote right now for $2 an hour during the peak, and then $1 an hour during the other times. So, yeah.
I was thinking like $1.25, but I think it's all vibes. We need like, what is the magic number for a municipality that's comparable to ours?
I'm ready to ask the treasurer to budget accordingly to accommodate the $1 an hour, 7 days a week during the time frame that we're asking for, and out of respect for our our merchants in the community who have, like Karen said, experienced a really tough winter shoulder season, that, you know, we give them their very best chance to succeed while continuing to do what we do, which is enforce parking and make people move when they need to move. And if they don't pay for their metered parking spot, they get a ticket, and that's a $50 increase. So I think the treasurer's put together a good plan in terms of
But you don't
where
think
the
that's-
holes will be filled, and also there is funding in there to address maintenance of the facilities. So
The ticketing to supplement the offsetting of the parking meters, it's going to drive people to not come back to the
it's not
village.
offsetting, it's enforcing
Un-
for managed
understood,
parking.
But
That's the
when we were
goal.
discussing it, and as the treasurer was discussing it, his was saying, well, we're going to get an additional 4 or 5 tickets for these hours. And I don't own a business in the village, but I'm saying if you continue to ticket people at the rate that we're doing it, don't worry about paying parking meters. We're going to drive people out of the community from coming here. So
Well,
if that's an offset.
I actually think we would drive compliance, but then that has that has a budget impact.
Right, that would
I-
reduce the
I
revenue,
think it's
but-
risky to depend on the enforcement always being there, because eventually behaviors will change and people will just know they have to pay the dollar because they're going to get caught, which is good. But then we can't depend on that extra $200 per hour, possibly.
I don't know. After, when it was $3 an hour, the uproar we had from the community, from the business community, it's affecting the employees, because the employees also had, the employees don't get free parking, so the employees had to pay. It was just onerous. I think the $1 an hour, I think we should, for the year, I would vote to do the $1 an hour. I wouldn't want to increase it on any time. It gets a little confusing too. All right, what day is it? It's Friday. I got to pay $2. I think it's just consistency, and I think for the first year, I think I would go along with the $1 an hour. See how we are at the end of the year. Hopefully, we won't be $47,000 short. Hopefully, we'll be able to make it up. But I would rather err on the side of the business improvement district and say, we're going to do $1 an hour this year. That's
The budget
That's what I'm thinking.
the budget process is underway. I think with these numbers and these projections, I think the treasurer has an opportunity, and see if you agree, Finance Commissioner, that we can address what we need to address in the budgeting process. So we're not short. We are meeting our expectations, and we are budgeting according to the anticipated numbers, to hit the anticipated numbers. So that's Stephen's job.
Now, the other side of the coin is what Trustee Hill brought up, was extending it to midnight as opposed to 11. I don't know if that,
Don't know,
Would
but the
generate-
first draft of this letter was to 10.
yeah. Oh,
And
Well,
what the bid had agreed to in the meeting was 11. So I don't,
I think the first letter was from the chamber, was 10, and then the second one was from the bid for 11. But did we negotiate with the bid to get that request, or did the request organically come from?
they put the request forward. There was
Okay.
no negotiation.
Yeah, the only thing I would want to say is so we've done a 5-year analysis of the history, right? And so what we found from the numbers is that whether it was $1.25 or $3 an hour, the volume was relatively the same. So at the bid meeting that I attended, I asked the question, what is the problem we're trying to solve here? And the response there was turnover, right? We want more turnover. So, and we want more foot traffic. So not just turnover, but people spending more time, and I believe they felt that the $3 an hour was keeping people from just, promenading through the store areas and benefiting the vendors, so the business community. So, so we've, now taken that and said, okay, we know that it's going to reduce our revenue by approximately $47,000. And, okay, yeah, and, but there is an offset so that we expect ourselves to stay mainly flat. I don't know that I agree with the statement that if we enforce, it's going to start driving people away. I think parking enforcement, is just that, right? If you park in a spot and it's $1 for an hour, and you stay and don't pay, then yeah, you're going to get a ticket. I don't know that is going to cause behavior modification in the way you think it will. I think people will just go, well, hell, next time I'll just pay it so I don't get a ticket, right? That would be my expectation of behavior mod. The only thing that I would ask is, we should be having these conversations before we go into sort of our initial budget cycles, right? So historically, the bid has requested changes, and they've been enacted in the current year. I would love to see this be a little closer to sort of a January, February conversation, so it is then made part of the following budget so that we don't have as many moving parts in the budget. I think I brought that up in the bid meeting that I attended.
If we
as well.
extend meter parking to midnight, would that more than likely cover up the $40,000 shortfall, potential shortfall?
There's no historical data for me to even opine on it. So
Yes, there is. Placer.
Right.
We can see the traffic. So, we're I don't know if we can conditionally approve something. I mean, Matt Franco
And
wants it to be $2 on the weekends, and
It might
Bob
also
seems to agree
be
with one,
just-
and I agree with one, and I
Yeah.
don't know what,
It-
but
Also, just having it at midnight has the added advantage of, like, if folks are just loitering in the parking lot
yeah.
and they're not paying, which we
I
did
agree
run-
with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that, because that's really, I mean, when Karen mentioned that is kind of a reason
Mhm.
we'll keep the enforcement active.
Right.
So, I don't know, do we counter propose? Because I would do that.
Can we?
I'm looking at Karen
motion to-
Sullivan right now.
Can we
like,
motion to amend it to?
can you text your friends real quick?
midnight?
We could propose to amend the resolution to midnight
Okay.
enforcement, and I don't think, I can't conjure any rationale or negativity to something like that, because no one's shopping at midnight, right? And they're not paying visits to their hairdresser or their brow person,
Yeah.
right?
So the difference seems relatively immaterial to go from 11 p.m. to midnight.
Just
so-
from a public safety.
Right. I think it has public safety advantage, or reduces the risk of a budget shortfall, and then reduces the incidence of people saying, well, I could make 45
Right,
minutes
right.
maybe of getting away with enforcement. Because someone will get through that every night. There's just no way to not have that, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, yeah, Karen, hurry up.
Get a copy of
So, just to piggyback on what
Trustee Franco said about like behavior modification. So when I go to Station Yards and I go to Huntington, I don't really hang out in Patchogue. I know that they're enforcing, so I pay.
Yes.
So I don't mess around with that. Like, when we were at Station Yards on Saturday, they had security guards everywhere. Like, I said to my husband, I'm like, oh my God, I have to feed the meter because the guys were everywhere. And I was afraid of
I wonder
getting a
what their
ticket.
tickets are.
I don't even know. I
Yeah.
didn't even want to like
Yeah.
entertain
out.
that
Yeah.
because the ticket could be $100.
Yeah.
And it could have cost me $5 or $100.
Yeah.
So to your point, respectfully, I see where you're going, but when I'm in Huntington and we get stuck inside a restaurant or at the Paramount or wherever we're gonna stay, I feed the meter. Because I don't wanna get a ticket, and to me, spending $6, $8, $10 on parking is better than getting a $100 ticket. So I do feel like mentally it has changed my behavior in those towns because I know that code is out there and they're writing tickets. So I just wanted to just
Thank you.
add that piece.
Good point.
See me after the meeting, I'll tell you where the free parking is in Huntington.
Oh, okay.
You're holding out on all of us, telling Karen?
Here or in Huntington?
Huntington.
Oh.
All right, so
You wanna-
can we amend the resolution?
So do we have a motion to amend to midnight?
Motion to amend Resolution 11 to midnight.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of the resolution as read, except for the motion to amend it to midnight, is that right? The
All in-
entire,
I think we
So we're gonna do all in
vote
favor of the
to
amendment.
amend-
All in favor of the
and then
amendment?
we
Mhm.
vote for the
Is that a yes?
resolution.
Everyone in favor?
And then, yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. Now, the amended motion will read, resolution approving the parking-related recommendations of the Chamber of Commerce and Business Improvement District per the attached letters to enforce metered parking from noon through midnight and charge $1 per hour, 7 days per week for metered parking. The enforcement of metered parking continues to be from April 1st through Thanksgiving Eve, and the suspension of metered parking continues to be from Thanksgiving Day through March 31st. May I have a motion on that, please?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Resolution number 12, 31126, resolution approving the reinstatement of tennis at the Port Jefferson Country Club for a one-year period to be fully self-funded by the tennis membership, including all costs associated with court installation, operation, maintenance, repair, and any required removal or restoration at no cost to the village or its taxpayers. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Discussion?
Oh.
So I'm just going to ask trustee Ugrinsky to talk through this process
Sure.
to start.
Okay, so it was about 5 or 6 months ago when there's a group of folks that were in the tennis membership started reaching out to me via text and asking if there was any way that this could, we could have a couple of courts back in use at the country club. And so that was discussed, and they offered to self-fund it. So I asked them to put a plan together. The plan was discussed at last night's Country Club Management Advisory Council meeting. And so there were 3 bids that were received for a resurfacing the courts. This is not a complete redo of the tennis courts. It is basically a quick and dirty resurfacing of the tennis courts with the requisite maintenance that would be required on a daily basis. And commensurate with that plan, they've also put forward a plan for the membership fees, and they've got sufficient commitment to cover all of the costs, including the day-to-day management and operations. Um,
Are
And
fees,
so,
so fees aren't in this resolution today. Fees would be a next step finalization for this board to approve and review and approve. But that proposal for fees is not yet in our agenda to vote on, would be voted on in the the March 25th meeting.
I think the most important pieces to this is that we have a group of residents and tennis members who feel strongly enough about utilizing an asset that is sitting there and currently unused. The caveat to that group was if we can find a way to make those tennis courts usable for this season, right? That's why it's not a full refurbishing of everything or a redo. And they could cover the cost, and they came up with the plan, and therefore we're discussing it.
And
So-
this resolution came out of the meeting of the, yes, sure.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
We still need to make sure, even though that it's going to be, for lack of a better term, donated, we need to make sure that we still follow a municipal process in reference to, our regular procurement rules. You can't sidestep procurement because of a donation.
No, there's no donations, Attorney Moran. These are membership rates that will go into the cost of the maintenance and ongoing, the restoration and the ongoing maintenance of the tennis courts. It's not donation, it is membership fees that we don't have, we haven't seen yet in writing, but the assurances are that they will be, to the extent that they will be able to afford the costs of the restoration of the tennis courts and the ongoing maintenance needs for and hardscaping needs of the tennis courts. Now, we're also told that, and this is premature probably, but it looks like the rates that are being thrown around and discussed to get to these numbers are very similar with the last rates that were implemented at the country club for tennis.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. I actually brought this topic up at the last work section about the potential of utilizing those two tennis courts. And at that meeting, Mayor, you said to me that we can't do that because that's the staging area for Phase 2 of the Bluff. So what has changed from last month to now?
What changed was we went back to the group that was asking for the plan.
Sure.
And put the plan together for us. And they had to agree that this is a one-year plan, right? Or one season. One tennis season, that's what they're asking for. So they have put together a plan to get those tennis courts operational. And they've also, which we'll be looking at in our next meeting, is the memberships. So the same way the golf memberships cover off all of the golf course expenses, this would follow that with the understanding that
I completely understand. But
it may be completely destroyed.
Yeah, no, it doesn't answer
know,
it
over
doesn't
the
really,
winter.
it didn't really answer my question. So if when I mentioned it a month ago, this is going to be the area for Phase 2 of the Bluff.
Staging area.
Staging area. Does that mean the Bluff project is being put off till after the tennis? Do we know information about the Bluff that we didn't know a month ago?
What we know about the project is that it wouldn't occur during the high season of the catering facility.
So it's going to end.
It would occur, and tennis ends, like October 15th, November 15th? So, yeah, it wouldn't occur. And that was my concern. Like, this is the staging area, right? I said it out
That's what
loud.
you said, yeah.
And I guess Trustee Ugrinsky and
We
the CCMAC
communicated
brought
it
it back
to the
to
group,
the group,
yeah.
and they said, well, we're fine with that. We just want to play during the season.
Understood. I think listen, if we can get this operational, and if there's no cost to the village, and there's no utilization of golf course staff, to do the maintenance of this, that's fantastic.
Yes, we
That's a great.
actually
that's a-
solved all of
it's-
those
it's-
problems.
It's actually what I was saying a month ago.
No,
But yes,
it's-
that's a great
it's,
idea.
And it took a lot of communication and a lot of advocacy on the part of,
Great leadership at the
a number
CCMAC.
of the tennis folks and the and the CCMAC. So,
Any further discussion?
Yes, so the next resolution, the 8,500 to fix the tennis courts, that would be paid for through the fees from the resurrected
mhm.
tennis club. But what if the rates come a little bit higher than what people are willing to pay for one season? Who's holding the bag if they can't fill the slots?
Well, it's similar to the way the golf membership goes. Membership fees are paid up front.
Mhm.
They're not paid over time.
Right.
So if you have the membership fees that will help drive
Sustain.
sustain the operation.
The operational costs, right? So
No, I
we're
know-
pretty
I get it.
comfortable
I
that the
understand
first
that part of
folks
it.
that are going to
Yeah.
be joining will be far in excess of this $8,500.
Okay, so how many tennis players will we need for that then? Or are we anticipating?
I think we may need the CCMAC chair to,
And just where is the 8,500 coming from?
the
Membership
membership
fees.
fees.
Membership, so it's nothing that's going to happen until the membership fees are collected.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Thank you.
If we don't have money in the budget, we can't pay for the project.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes, so the.
Alex,
Yes, Alex Spiegel, I'm sorry,
Right.
CCMEC Chair. The money will be coming from the tennis members directly. We would collect the money before to make sure we have enough funds and before the tennis season opens.
And how many players?
Oh,
are
so I'm
we
sorry, so the number of
anticipating?
players, so I spoke with Renee Lemmerman, and based on the 2 courts, it's probably a max of 60 for now. And they said maybe you could push it by, 5 to 10.
Gotcha.
So from that, we assessed,
And what is the membership fee going to be? What's the amount?
so we haven't,
Do you have
so.
an idea?
so
Yeah,
that-
there's a
there's-
pro forma schedule of fees already that they've seen, that.
but let's when we look
but
at this, let's look at it
We have to
formally.
approve it. yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
so we were looking at the fees from tennis previously and what it's gonna cost to resurface the courts, so we were aware of what that money would be.
And then, help me understand, what are the ongoing costs of tennis? Like, the courts don't have to be watered, so.
Yeah, so.
Yeah,
And
the
so
courts have to be
it-
watered.
Okay,
There's-
all right, well.
There's a daily irrigation of
So
them.
exactly, there's existing sprinkler systems that go on every day. And then it's about, I would say about an hour's worth of maintenance every day to roll the lines and to clean and sweep the courts, which we would obviously bring someone in to handle the maintenance.
I'll be bringing them in, like, for 2 hours a day to do that.
Yeah,
work.
not even, I think it's 1 hour a day.
Yeah, and someone local.
Yes,
Right.
someone local, resident, who's worked on the courts before. Maybe she'll come in twice a day, for 20 minutes each, so it's like a max of 1 hour per day.
Mhm. Okay.
Seasonal, part-time. Okay, any other discussion?
I just like the
Thank
idea
you.
of bringing tennis back to the club, so.
Yeah,
me
everyone is
too.
very
Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
If it can happen, it would be fantastic.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
all your hard work on that, Alex. Appreciate it. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Oh, wait, I have one more question, actually. Since the resident discount would apply to,
Again, that's the discussion we have to talk about for rates.
okay,
Yeah, there would be a non-resident and a resident rate.
gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're only at 60 players, I would suspect we could get there with just residents, and then would it be possible to apply a resident rate?
Well, we just said that we expect like a resident and non-resident rate. You're saying
Yeah.
apply a
So, like,
resident
at the
rate
golf
to
course,
everyone?
The non-resident, no. At the golf course, the non-residents make up, I think, like 60 to 70% of the revenue.
Huh?
So, but it's because there's 500 golf slots, and only there are not 500 residents who want a golf club membership. But is it possible that we could have too many village residents? That
So-
I guess we can cross that
No,
bridge when we
I
get
was gonna
there,
say,
but-
when we, as part of discussing the rates next time, I think, and, you know, obviously getting it all out to everybody in advance of the meeting, but another data point we could include in that is it's already almost fully committed. So what does that distribution look like, resident, non-resident? And then we can talk about it.
Mhm.
Waiting list,
Wait, so
guest fees,
We figure out the amount of money, so even if it was all, we would make the money still from the residents as well, like it's not, I
Got-
know golf is different, but the resident fee would cover.
so resident, non-resident, if we
No,
looked
I
at
understand
at the
it'll-
last
yeah.
membership, rates for tennis for resident and non-resident, and what that difference was, we can use it as a model.
But did you say there's already 60 people who said that they want to?
Yeah. How many? I thought it was 55 last I heard, but 60 is, the number 60 is
Number will be
how many
revealed
the courts
by
can
people who join.
comfortably cover.
We don't have to,
Again, we reached out to the previous membership.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, we reached out to the previous membership, so it's not these are the ones that are interested and committed to join. So we don't have final numbers, but we are confident that we will be well over that, and we would have to have a waiting list as well, because we went from 8 courts now to 2 courts. So with the amount of memberships that were previously in the club, we have a feeling that we will have a wait list.
Okay.
Another data point
Are
that is
and
spurring
are they
that?
interested or committed?
They're committed. When I say committed, so when you say interested, so we had to do a lot of back research to see who would be willing to come back, and they really wanted to come back. So we kind of said, if it's gonna cost this amount, if you have to maintain the courts, are you willing to do this? And all the answers were yes. So we are it's pretty much a yes, especially there's other things happening with other courts around the area. So this is another reason why we're going to have a lot of people interested in the tennis, because there isn't any tennis now that's very close. And
Okay.
if there's a wait list,
Yeah.
and one of the main facilities has closed. They actually
Recently.
sent an email yesterday.
Yeah, I've gotten
Yeah.
all of Nick's
So
emails as
so we're
well.
not worried. I'm telling you, we will definitely fill the
Got it.
membership
But the
immediately.
people that we checked in with, they're not in line now.
No, so we have to open it up, so.
Right, okay, that's what I'm
obviously,
getting
it's a-
at.
it's a- yes,
Because
it's a-
when
it's
you
a
say
first-
folks are committed, it sounds like
When I say
they have
committed,
their
like, they've
spot in
approached us
line,
and
and
said,
I wouldn't, my concern would that would not be appropriate. We'd have to open it up, and
Oh,
it might have to be a
absolutely. I mean-
lottery for however it's done, yeah.
Absolutely. When I say committed, it's not really committed, it's their interest, and they were like, if we can get in, we absolutely would love to be in.
Understood.
Thank you.
ready to vote?
Ready to vote?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yay.
We have tennis.
Yes.
Woo!
Well,
Again.
okay, next resolution.
Resolution number 13, 31126, resolution approving the proposal submitted by Century Tennis, Inc. in the amount of $8,496 for the cleaning, resurfacing, and restoration of the tennis courts at the Port Jefferson Country Club, and authorizing Mayor Shepro to sign the proposal on behalf of the Village of Port Jefferson. May I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Resolution number 14, 31126, resolution adopting an official village logo, which is this.
Where'd that come from?
Particular to the commemoration of the Port Jefferson 250th anniversary of America's independence and Port Jefferson's contributions thereto. May I have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Just a little background, just to, again, I think I've mentioned before that Fran Moshe was the designer who pulled this logo together with help from the 250th Committee for Port Jeff 250. And that includes Mark Sternberg. This has some of, and Chris Ryan, our village historian. Their historic references are included on this with the whaleboat and the armed whaleboat called, to be known at some point in the future when we vote on it, potentially, the Caleb Brewster. So anyway, it was a labor of the input from all the people from the not-for-profits represented at our 250th committee, including Port Jeff Arts Council, Port Jeff Chamber, the Brookhaven Town Historian, the Daughters of the American Revolution, and who else? I don't want to forget anybody. LISEC. Historical Society.
Theater 3.
Who else?
Theater 3.
Theater 3.
Conservancy.
Conservancy. And Conservancy has been very supportive. And so, yeah, and it was, we're adopting it as the official logo at the advice of our attorney because, right, Attorney Moran? Because we are looking to provide it as a licensed piece of
It's a trademark or?
license as something that will be used for merchandise and promotional products. So in order to do that legally and responsibly, we do have to adopt it as an official logo of the Village of Port Jefferson. And so as our graphic artist and our treasurer's office and I and whoever else wants to get involved with this, we've been kind of like trying to identify promotional companies that will source our swag for the 250th that different merchants can order online. It's not coming through us, but it will be coming through this particular promotional company, organization, or whoever wants to work with us on the license availability. And we're also looking to have a portion of the proceeds go back to the Conservancy as sort of a like 1% of sales or 2% of sales go back to the Conservancy. So the village ends up benefiting through that process too. So that's, I think, any questions about that? Did I get it all?
You did.
Okay. All right. So all in favor of this logo?
Aye.
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 All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mayor, that concludes my report.
Wow.
So
Uh,
quick.
Anybody else want to give their report tonight?
I can go fast on mine. if you
Okay,
want me to
Kyle.
Jump in.
All right.
Public safety met last Monday. We talked about two larger things. We had a small turnout, so we didn't pass any formal recommendations. I'm just gonna write one note to myself before I forget. But we talked about the snow removal code that you, since you sent it over, specifically with sidewalks, and the walkability group also engaged with me on it too. Pretty much the conclusion was it is hard to manage because it's 4 hours post snow. Superintendent Munson recommended we move it to 24 hours. So there was agreement among the attendees, but we didn't have a large enough group to send over a formal recommendation. But I didn't think folks would be largely opposed to that here. And then we also talked about the contractor situation and shared the map with the attendees and everyone, but talked about it with those who were able to attend. And for folks at home, there's a kind of a patchwork of responsibility across the downtown of contractors and DPW being responsible for snow removal on the sidewalks and or the public if it's your storefront. And there was agreement that we should try our best to move to one entity being responsible for the full project. I think Superintendent Munson would like it to be DPW, at least overseeing all the contracts along with the bid, but that would have to be probably worked on over the summer to be able to engage on for next year, and then we'd have to figure out what that would actually cost and make sure that the downtown's contribution is fair to that. And then one of the things, and I had already talked to Trustee Franco about this, is for older residents who might have, so one of my neighbors down the street on Myrtle, I think she's 82, and she has 140 feet of sidewalk in front of her house that she reminded me, or informed me, that she did not have when she bought the house. The village put it in there after the fact. So, and she said she's fine to have it, but, you know, asking an 82-year-old to shovel 140 feet of 2 feet of snow is really just not going to happen. And then her street, much like mine actually, it's where there's no hell strip between the road and the sidewalk, so all the plow snow also gets put on there. So like even for me, like, you know, me and Greg, we had trouble shoveling out our bit of sidewalk because it was all snow. So we have to figure out something there. And one of the things we were talking about is doing more of a coordinated kind of snow angel volunteer system where folks who may not be able to shovel themselves out can put out like a little pennant or something, and then work with the school to do volunteer hours to get the snow out. So hopefully we don't have to deal with that for the rest of this season.
Yeah.
But something to kind of, you know,
Decade.
get moving on for
I love that
the
idea.
next
Snow angel
season.
flag.
Yeah.
And other municipalities do it, so we didn't really, you know, come up with anything
Okay.
super unique, but it would be good to try to get it started. And then last week I talked about the Uber or rideshare drop-off at the ferry. The town voted on it after we had met last, so that is on the books, good to go.
They said yes?
And then, yeah, so the ferry agreed to lease a spot. The town approved the contract by vote at the town board level, and they're waiting for an update on changing out the signs, because right now there's a sign that says no drop-offs in the lot, which is not really enforced either way, but this way we're not deterring folks. And then we're working with the larger rideshare companies like Lyft and Uber, so that when you plug in the ferry, much like when you go to the airport, it takes you exactly to where you need to go, and we don't have folks jumping out on
Main Street or
Main
East
Street
Broadway.
or
Yeah.
East Broadway. So glad that one is
That's great. Congrats.
off
Yay.
the list
That's
of
great.
Public Safety Advisory Council meetings. Yeah. And I think there is one more thing that I am forgetting. The sidewalk on West Broadway. So because the weather's just been so terrible, my plan was just to walk that Bayview Terrace Street to check in with folks and maybe do a more formal Google form sheet if folks want to solicit their feedback. To see, and I starting in the middle of the story, but there's a crummy piece of sidewalk, asphalt going up West Broadway on the north side of the street. The state has it seems like they're giving us a hurdle to do the sidewalk, but we're willing to entertain it. And they recommended, and this was conversation that was happened in the prior administration as well, but nothing came of it, to make Bayview Terrace one way. So
Or a dead end.
or a dead end, right? So this way we don't have the traffic issue going through there, which in my opinion would solve two problems. If we can get the
Definitely.
state to do the sidewalk, it increases access to all those
that was their
streets
condition,
and
right?
neighborhoods. Yes. I just hope I hope that's their only one condition. But then the other problem is all the time UPS trucks and Amazon trucks get stuck on Bayview Terrace. They bottom out and they can't get there. And even when I was riding with Port Jeff EMS, we can't take the ambulances down that way. It's like part of the driver
That's the
training.
best reason, you
Yeah,
know, be-
like we're
fire,
not, and
fire and
so
emergency.
right. So
Yeah.
everyone knows it, and that's not an incident that
Uh-huh,
happens. But
uh-huh.
like, God forbid, if you got an ambulance stuck there, it's not just blocking the road. You have an ambulance offline.
Mhm.
That does not happen. The EMTs are very good. So, but it is. It would resolve any risk of that, and then there's always, I think, we get like all the time, every week there's a truck there, and the Schwartings insist that there would be more if not for them, because they will stop trucks as they see them going down the
Really?
road, and I believe
I
them.
believe it. I believe
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay, so what do you think time frame on that is?
My plan was to do it now that it's nice out and
It's
I have
getting
time
nicer.
this weekend. So,
Okay. Okay, great.
yeah.
That's everything?
That's everything.
What's the next step on the contract, the snow removal thing? This is now gonna be an off-season conversation where we can maybe plan for the heart of next season. Maybe we get Anthony and Greg together to say, you know, let's really come up with a formal sort of approach to snow removal.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to have ongoing kind of side meetings to figure out what a way to do it, because it just is so many overlapping.
I think
different
between
responsibilities.
Kevin, Anthony, and Greg,
Mhm.
did I say Greg before?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we task them with it, and they'll come up with
Mhm.
it's like just add water plan, you know?
Yeah, hopefully.
They're very good.
Oh, there is actually one other thing that we were chatting about a couple meetings ago. There's a whole bunch of lights that are out on Winston. Superintendent Munson is aware of that. We've been talking about it for quite a while. The snow has gotten in the way of resolving that issue. I think they were trying to get it fixed between the two snow events, and it just didn't happen because when they went and looked at the electric work under the street, they had to saw into the street and look at it. And I'm not an electric engineer, I'm not going to explain it technically correctly, but there's a bunch of problems that couldn't be done in one shot, so they're hoping to have it cleared up by this Friday or the next one. So the folks that are out there, that is what's going on. We have been talking about it for a number of weeks, but we didn't communicate that we were looking at this, and I think folks at the Civic Association were talking about it.
Yeah, and Winston gets really dark at night.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Wellsback that does that work?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm gonna, Dave Moran, do you want to go with this? We have a code to discuss, a code amendment or a new code?
Yes, that's the litter code.
Yes.
This is the, what Trustee Franco was eloquently calling the drag-out code, when it was suggested a few months back. It turned out in doing the research that our code adequately addressed some of the issues. So instead of creating a new code based on other codes in the surrounding municipalities, what we did is we decided to amend our code and add the necessary language to cover the issues, specifically some of the issues that are happening on Beach Street, but other issues that happen during major construction, which there'll be some construction coming up in the village of migrating dust and dirt along our highways and on surrounding properties. So we circulated that language about a month or so ago. Me and Trustee Franco had some conversations about enforcement and the verbiage. And what you see before you today is the finished product for the public hearing to be done on at the end of the month.
How do you feel enforcement will be implemented?
Could you repeat that, Mayor? I'm sorry.
How do you feel the enforcement of the code will be successfully implemented?
I keep losing you at the start of your conversation. All right.
How will it be enforced?
Oh, that's good.
Maybe it's the words I don't.
You're further away from this laptop.
Yeah,
You're
it's
talking
the
into
lap,
mic, but
it's the laptop, yeah.
It can be enforced multiple ways. One, periodically, if we know there's major projects and construction going on, we could certainly have code identify and sit on certain areas where it's continuously happening. We could also prosecute off of third-party affidavits, as long as that individual or neighbor is willing to testify. And we could also use cameras and the like. It's going to be based off the personal knowledge of the person writing the summons, or in support of a third-party affidavit from an individual. So there's multiple ways to enforce that code without having the need also for custodial stops. If we get license plates, we can run those license plates back to individual residences and serve summons that way. If they're corporations, we can serve the Secretary of State. So there's a bunch of different ways to get there, Mayor.
And so, if, so where are the, I'm looking for them and maybe I'm missing them, but the penalties or the violation?
So the penalties for that section default to section 1 of the code, where it's currently up to $1,000. We're looking to amend that section as well in upcoming months.
Does it refer to section 1 of the code in this, does it have to in this particular chapter?
It doesn't have to. You could certainly create individual fines, but that code as drafted currently does not. We can certainly add that in the future if the board's amenable to adopting this code. If you adopt this code at the next meeting, what will happen is the fine schedule that's in place will govern until we change it.
Oh, okay, so it automatically defaults to the fine schedule in place.
I believe at the end of that chapter 169, I believe it is.
Okay,
It does refer to anyone guilty or found in violation of this code is subject to fines as set forth in chapter 1, something like that.
okay, yep, I know which one you're talking about. Any other
questions?
We see that everyone's saying no. All right, so this is what will appear as for a public hearing on March 25th, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Do you have anything else, Attorney Moran?
I don't. My signal's been intermittent, so I'm gonna check out. If anything pops up, Sylvia can text me and I'll come right back on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you guys. Thank you for accommodating me today.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you
Thanks,
for
Dave.
being here. All right, Trustee Franco.
Okay. The weather interfered with our meeting
Oh, you wanna leave?
in February, so we were unable to meet. But I have been, I attended the school board meeting last night, and it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of champions last night. There's so many names, I can't even read them all. But we had, in the elementary school, spelling and mathematic champions. 2 Port Jeff wrestlers were qualified for the states, which was fantastic. Our cheerleading team came in 3rd place in the state. Fencing, we had a 3rd place finish also. And our, I think it's, I hope I'm not wrong, it's the 4x100 relay. We were set a state, I think we set a Port Jeff record, a state record, and we were the #1 in the state. So that was an amazing,
Wow.
fun
Wow.
experience. Yeah, they
great.
were gigantic.
Yeah, what was the time?
8:04, I think.
Wow.
I hope I'm right.
Wait, 4 by
and
100?
the-
Okay.
It could be, I listen, and again, I could be wrong. It could be long. I
Might be the
apologize.
4 by 400. Or
maybe
the
he
4
wasn't
by
that.
800.
And then Mr. Sherrod was awarded the Suffolk Zone Professional of the Year Award. They had a dinner. He's fantastic with the kids. He does a wonderful job. I have been meeting with a few of the Board of Ed members to develop the MOU between the village and the school district. I have a couple of the board members coming to the meeting that we're going to have next week. They're going to present the budget because the district is well into the budget process. So they're going to speak about their budget, and we're going to continue to work on the MOU going forward. So we're in the process of that. So that's where we are with that. Since I'm talking right now, I might as well I just have a question. Trustee Ugrinsky, do we have bylaws yet from Kemper for the Board of Governors?
So we did not ask them to draft them. We're in the process of doing that. It'll go through legal review, but
So-
the documents so the focus, and this was actually going to be part of my readout tonight anyway. So we have, Kemper is winding down. We expect to have a draft review that will include the president of the Board of Governors and the chair of the Country Club Management Advisory Committee next Friday. That's a week from, I'm sorry, that is this Friday, so 2 days from now. And what we have gotten from them that is already being incorporated by the Board of Governors is formal grievance policy, formal medical credit policy, orientation, and it is, it's not like we're just taking those documents and reusing them. We have a member handbook already, so we're trying to incorporate best practices into that.
So you can
the bylaws themselves are in process.
So you can sense the frustration, because many of the people in the community are a little frustrated that we haven't had bylaws put in place, because we've been asking for them for well over 2 years. And we were told on numerous occasions, because we've asked for elections, and we were said, give Kemper an opportunity to put the bylaws together for us. So we've heard so many different variations of the dog ate my homework, just to use it as an analogy, of why we don't have bylaws in place. And because I have personally been told, the mayor, literally when Trustee Giuliano asked sometime in November, give them time to develop bylaws. Well, now we're 4 months later, and we still don't have bylaws, and now you're saying Kemper's not developing the bylaws for us. So it's problematic. And the fact that we haven't had elections, we don't have elections in the horizon, would lead me to put a motion forward to dissolve the Board of Governors, effective today. And then task the CCMAC to put bylaws together, whether we have some portions of it already, but until we get bylaws in place, we need to, this needs to be done in regular order. So I believe that since we have been told so many different variations of rationales why we don't have bylaws for 2.5 years almost, that I think it's time for us to rip the Band-Aid off. And so what I'm doing is I'm putting a motion forward to dissolve the Board of Governors today. So I'm looking for someone to second that motion.
I'll second it for discussion, so let's discuss that. Because you're right, November, October, whenever, I brought that up, and Kemper was working on it. All right, so we're 4 months into it, so let's put the gun to the head and let's say, let's get this thing done.
The what?
Wrong euphemism, but let's force the issue.
So just to remind this board, the Board of Governors was elected by the membership, and there are terms that they were elected to serve. There is an election scheduled for the end of this season and there are three seats expiring. So bylaws notwithstanding, because I sense your frustration, I'm a little frustrated about it too, but creating bylaws for the sake of creating bylaws, because you need them, if they're not right,
Well,
they're not, it's like an exercise in futility. I understand we said in November, and I did think Kemper was going to put the bylaws together. But what it turns out, the way that the contract reads now, is that they're going to source some examples. They haven't given us what we're looking for from those examples, but the Kemper contract ran from when we approved it, and we're expecting their presentation on March 25th at the next board meeting. So you want to ask questions of Kemper then, you're free to. But the Board of Governors was duly elected by the membership when they were elected by the membership. There will be another election at the end of this year. So to disband a Board of Governors that has been working, not to your satisfaction, obviously, but to the satisfaction of the members. The members are relatively happy. Some members are not, but some residents are not happy with me. Some residents are. You can't please everybody, but they're doing their job, Matt. And the president of the Board of Governors is serving as a person who sits on the CCMAC. So what do you feel about disbanding the Board of Governors so then that person who sits on the CCMAC no longer serves on the CCMAC? So you're disrupting the whole apple cart because you're not happy with the way that it turned out. It's your personal issue. And
hold on.
I get it.
You, Mayor,
Bob?
you have misled us on so many occasions
listen,
about,
this is
pardon me,
not-
Mayor, I'm going to speak
I don't-
now. You have misled us
It's-
on so many occasions about the bylaws.
I know
here.
how you feel
And
about me,
and-
Matt
and-
Franco.
No, Mayor,
I know how you
like
feel
a
about
lot,
me
Mayor. I
personally.
think that's really not.
But this is
Mayor,
this
but
is
the-
not
the
Can we
truth
just
is,
make this a
you
database
Point of order.
conversation?
Mayor,
Point of
let me
order.
finish. So
Your motion has been made. I don't have Dave Moran on. Can we get Mr. Moran back on? So we're making sure that we're doing this legally.
Sure, let's do it.
While we get
All right,
Dave on,
and then,
I
hang
will
on,
say-
I want to talk about the bylaws for a second, okay? So
Okay.
we actually had bylaws up until shortly after Stan Laux was no longer a trustee, right? The problem with the bylaws that existed was that they were written by the Board of Governors. So they were found to be deficient. So as part of the golf course management consulting agreement with Kemper, that was not specifically called out. That was not specifically called out, but it is something that we did communicate to them that we would like to get done. It is something that by process has to also then be reviewed by an attorney. But I think what was inappropriate at the beginning was we thought we had bylaws, but they were written by the very board they stand to govern, right? So that was one of the reasons this has taken so long, okay? That's just one. So could it have gone faster? Sure. Do I wish everything in government would go faster? Absolutely. But, here we are. So we've got a couple of drafts, but it still hasn't been reviewed by an attorney. So, I'd like to target, trying to get something in place by the end of the month. I think we ought to be able to do that and maybe have that as something that if we have to vote on it, that we can do maybe at the end of the month. But, so that's the current status for you.
I happy to have an attorney approve the well, there's a few things. First, the bylaws, and then the elections. We've been talking about the bylaws since Stan Laux was on the board. I sent edits over to Stan, and I forwarded them over to Attorney Moran well over a year and a half ago at this point. So, I think the frustration is certainly policy, not personal, I will say. And to your point on the elections, no, we have not. First of all, the first election, a lot of people did not vote in it. I know I often cite my neighbor, Jolie Powell, very involved in the golf club, extremely involved in the village, and she is one of the top realtors in the village, and she's one of the people that knows what's going on. She missed that election, and she didn't know what was happening. So part of a free and fair election is making sure that the electorate knows about it. And there was a little bit of folks not knowing, and maybe there was something else going on there. But I think that's obviously an incident and not data. But even beyond that, we haven't had elections since then. And if we don't have elections until after the season, that would be 3 seasons since the last election. And we were supposed to have staggered terms on it. And I don't think anyone is assigned which term that they're on. The other thing is we also added 3 people to the board at this level of, at the Board of Trustees level. So we've already, as
Those
those
are people who were on the ballot.
and didn't get elected, and we added them to the board. That doesn't make sense either.
We expanded the number of members on the Board of Governors from 7 to 9,
Yeah.
or 5 to 9. No, we added 3 extra people.
3.
Jim Cologne, Bill Gatta, and
Pete was already on.
Right.
it was Jim
Bobby
and
was
Bill. So it
on.
was from 5 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
So that made it the majority became
And I
resident.
believe Gary Zamek left the Board of Governors, correct, right?
No.
He's
Did
still
he?
on?
He might have.
Yeah.
Resigned?
Yeah, no,
Certain
he's not.
he-
He's no longer on.
Yeah. So all the folks a good portion of the folks have never been elected to that board. And we haven't had elections in
They were
3 seasons.
They all ran for election. The reason that we went to the 2 extra people who secured the next most votes was to expand the people who were on. They ran and they received votes. We expanded
either-
it, and those were included.
I hear you, and we agree on that history. But either way, we still didn't have elections last season. And we should be having them at the beginning of the season, not waiting until.
It is the beginning, because when you vote you have your closing, so you have your closing meeting in October, November, and you put up your candidates for Board of Governors. You nominate people for Board of Governors, and then they start, the next season is when they take office. So January 1 ostensibly.
But either way, there's no election for this season coming up, and there was no election for last season either. And I've said it before. I've
But
often
when they
doubted
ran-
that
when they
the Board of
originally
Governors
ran,
represents the golf
the-
club.
When they originally ran, they ran for 3-year terms.
That they
Yes,
made
but
up.
it should still have been staggered. So either way, there would have been folks who were up in the last 2 seasons.
The staggering begins for next year's election. The election that's happening this year,
At the end of the
that's
season.
when 3 people come off and 3 new people go on. Then the following year, 3 people come off and 3 new people come on. And then the following year, so the staggering is established at that point.
But there should be, no, because
And
in
so
the
help me
first election, there should
understand,
have been
if we
3 people who had-
disband, you're,
Mayor, may I?
okay, but let me just make one more point, Dave. If we disband the Board of Governors today, what's the purpose of that? What's the benefit of disbanding the meetings of people who are spending a lot of time working on a lot of effort, putting a lot of effort into the coming season? What,
Unless I'm mistaken, the Board of Governors exists as a product of the code, not of a board appointment.
No.
It's
No.
in the code.
No.
You are
that's
mistaken.
the CCMAC. And
Talking about the CCMAC or Board of Governors?
Board of Governors.
are not in the code.
But the one person is in the code from the Board of Governors, and that's the president of the Board of Governors, has an automatic seat on the CCMAC. That's where the Board of Governors
Okay.
is referenced in the code.
Okay, I knew it was in there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Because then it would need legislative equivalency. And you'd have to amend the code.
And so we would lose a spot on the CCMAC, which is a legislative equivalency, so How do we fill that role without creating a legislative equivalency? But
Well,
I
we,
mean,
again, my question is, what's the benefit of eliminating a board of governors made up of a majority of residents who have put in the time and dedicated the time outside of just as a satisfaction of, people who are unhappy with some of the decisions or the way that it's happened? These people are spending a lot of their personal time dedicated to helping the governance of the country, of the golf course.
okay, it's a
Does it
golf
make
club.
sense?
It's not exactly community service.
No,
Like,
does
it's-
it, but does
let's
it make
be
sense
realistic here.
Well,
to,
to you.
get,
Yes,
to
but
get
it's a
the
private
terms?
club. It's a private recreational club.
Does it make
Like,
sense to get the terms for
It's more
everybody
than-
and
it's
get that in front of the
complicated,
board
Kyle. It's
before
more
we even have
complicated
that,
than you're
Okay,
making
this
it sound.
conversation?
It's not. Sorry.
Doesn't it make sense to get the term limits, who's on them? Maybe this group needs to get a little more familiar with what the rules are that are currently in place and who's rolling off or who's vacating a seat, and then we can probably talk about it with a little more detail.
But if folks were, we have had this conversation 5 or 6 times.
Yeah.
So I think the majority of the board has shown that they're frustrated with that
It's
conversation.
frustration.
What is the
Exactly.
goal, though? What is the desired
The goal is we
outcome?
want elections and bylaws. We've asked for them for over a year. We don't have them. What choices are we? The other choice is we can just not approve anything that comes across for the country
Well,
club
why don't you
until
do
those
this?
things happen.
Why don't you talk to the
That's another
CCMAC,
alternative.
which has the oversight and is the board that the Board of Governors points up into, and see how they feel about what this practice should be. Because it's ostensibly, the CCMAC is the conduit between the Board of Governors and this Board of Trustees. So what's their opinion on this?
I think that if we task the CCMAC, which I think is a good idea, I was in a meeting with them yesterday, they seem to be all very competent and professional people. The problem that I have is that, and I hope I'm not being redundant, is that we have been told, when I tell you over and over and over again, so many different stories as to where the bylaws are, this has been going on for well over 2 years. So if we continue to get the dog ate my homework, I don't have it yet, Kemp is going to do it, this is not going to happen, we have a rational solution right now. We disband the Board of Governors, we give the bylaws, to give the CCMAC, we task them with putting bylaws together, because the problem is that for the past 2.5 years, there's been no governance on the on the Board of Governors. There has not been bylaws in place that manages whether elections are going to take place, how committees are formed. All of these things should have been put in place well in advance. The Board of Governors were put in place, it seems to me, in a harried state with no bylaws in place. Now, Trustee Laux, even though it was said that his bylaws were juvenile, or however they were, and they weren't sophisticated enough, we could have built off of that, and we've been asking for that for months. So when it feels to me like when you're misled over and over and over again, asking the same question and getting a different excuse each time, there's time to make a stand, and that is why I said today that it's time to dissolve the Board of Governors, have the CCMAC tasked with doing the bylaws, and then we'll call for new elections.
I'll ask our lawyer a question on this.
Certainly.
Does this Board of Trustees have the authority, legislative equivalent, to disband an organization that is governance for the country club that was not established through this?
I have a couple questions on that front. Since my time there, we've had limited. I've had limited experience with the Board of Governors. Who appoints them?
Members.
But also this board has.
The members appoint them.
No.
The members vote them in.
Yes, but we
Right,
added 3 people to the Board of Governors.
Who were voted on by the members.
That lost the election, and
Yeah.
so
But
they should have been,
This-
and if
we-
there were bylaws
This
in
board
place,
added spots and then added three
Added
people
three
that
people.
lost.
Has anyone had any discussions in disbanding the Board of Governors with anybody else except tonight?
No. Well, not that I know
Because
of.
I mean, ultimately, I've heard on all sides of the table on any issue is we always want to be as transparent as possible. At a work session where it's not on the agenda, when we have a board meeting in 2 weeks, just seems a little out of process and non-transparent.
Well, I
and
would
the
say that,
opportunity to be heard.
David, I would say that us asking for, I've been on the board for 8 months, 9 months now, and I have to say that the entire time I've been here, I have either mentioned or asked for bylaws to govern the Board of Governors. So for anybody to pretend, oh my God, this is coming out of nowhere, we have brought this up on multiple occasions and have been told multiple different stories. So at some point, we have to now take charge because we're not being told the truth about what's happening. So now, in my opinion,
Well, what are you being told that's not the truth unless I don't know because I'm not in the meeting?
we were told in November, well, Trustee Giuliano was told in November that Kemper was going to develop the bylaws, give Kemper time to do their job. And so we all said, okay. So we would come back month after month, the mayor said this, and ask, hey, where are the bylaws? How's the election? And again, for 4 months,
How's the election?
when are the elections going to happen?
We always knew the elections were happening at the end of this year.
Not if the bylaws
end
are
of
put
the
in
season.
place.
I didn't know that till just now.
That's the first we're all hearing it.
3-year terms.
Without,
3 years terms, a
Kemper
third of it is
not-
staggered. There should be an election every year where a third of the board is up. If we had bylaws, it would be written in there.
Is Kemper doing bylaws?
No, that's
Is
why we're
Kemper-
having
is-
this.
That's the frustration, Dave, that, you know, Kemper's not doing it.
weighing in on our first draft of the bylaws. They will be looking at
that's a whole nother.
okay? So, that's, you know.
But no,
So
Zena,
Kemper
I don't-
has the bylaws or not?
It is not a deliverable for them.
It's not part of the contract. They have not developed bylaws. 4 months ago, we asked for these bylaws. We were told Kemper's developing them. Now we're being told it's not part of their contract. They're going to consult with it. They're going to provide us with samples.
so you saw
And
the
again,
agreement
and
with
again,
Kemper.
again, the problem
voted
is
on the agreement
that
with Kemper.
that the mayor has intimated to this board on multiple occasions that the bylaws are coming when we keep asking for them, and we keep asking for elections. Kyle's right. There should be staggered elections. Trustee Laux, former Trustee Laux, his bylaws had staggered elections in them. Now, again, we are what, now 8 months later, and a total of 2.5 years later, that the Board of Governors was initiated without bylaws, and we're still having the same conversations. So sometimes you have to take a stand and to get action, because as Trustee Ugrinsky said, government works slow. Well, it works slow if you keep being told something's going to happen and it doesn't, and you're misled. So yes, that is the reason why we should be disbanding the Board of Governors today.
Well, the Board of Governors is being blamed for no bylaws? Is that why we're disbanding the Board of Governors? They can't write their own bylaws. Blame us. Blame us. Blame me. I'll take
Mayor, I
responsibility
just
for
did.
it. May I just, okay.
Believe me, don't believe me when I tell you.
Well, you're
I just
disbanding
did.
the Board of Governors
Well,
because
Mayor,
of me?
wait a second, because we have asked for action on this. Well, listen, we're all elected officials here, and we've all asked for action on this
So,
matter. And
You've
and
talked,
you
you've-
have,
your point is taken.
and you, wait a minute,
Your
and
point
you
is
have,
taken. No.
again,
You're blaming me. I get it.
again, have pushed this off,
But Matt-
making statements that are not factually accurate. And so now we get to a point where we're 8 months into this,
Again, you're
almost
repeating
2.5 years.
yourself.
Exactly, because
repeating
you're
yourself.
not listening to what's going on, and so
You're-
again,
I'm trying to get to the next phase. So we're blaming the Board of Governors because the mayor hasn't been able to get the bylaws together. So why would you disband the Board of Governors for something the mayor can't get done? Now, I'll say the mayor can't get it done. We thought Kemper would help us with it. Kemper's alteration of our request is in their contract, and you can look at it because it's in your packet. When you voted on it, whether you voted yes or no, it's in the
I
packet.
voted,
I'm
I
not-
voted
I'm
no
not-
to
it's not a
Kemper, because that's
question.
another
It's
waste of
not a question.
$40,000.
Not a question, Matt. But what I'm trying to get to is, don't blame the Board of Governors for not producing bylaws for themselves, because they are not responsible for building their own bylaws. If you're upset with me because I haven't been able to bring that one home, then I'll take responsibility for it, but it's not something that we don't think is important. We do think it's important. It's not a question. We think it's important enough, but it takes time, it takes legal input, and it takes research, and the work that former trustee Laux did is appreciated, but again, it's a trustee creating a legal document that has governance oversight. I found it's not that easy to do. I mean, I don't know if you've ever tried to develop bylaws, if you've ever tried to develop bylaws for a body that is, making decisions in a governance position at a country club. It's not a small deal. Do a little research.
If we take the issue off the table and talk about our constituency, people don't think these types of discussions and votes are going to happen at a work session, period, because it's out of process. What's the harm if the majority of the board who wants to disband, what's the harm in doing it where we do these types of votes, which is at our general regular meeting on a calendared item that the public is aware of and maybe can come speak on?
Correct.
I think it was a frustration of.
The public has spoken on this for 2.5 years.
Message received. You clearly are frustrated. But again, if we waited 9 months, your issue has been raised at the work session. The discussion has been had. It looks like it's going in a direction where you may want it to. What's the harm in 2 more weeks? So, doing it in process.
And do we need a public hearing to have this come together, since it might impact our code?
The public hearing would have to remove, if you're disbanding the board, you'd have to change the CMACC, but I don't believe from a process that it needs that kind of equivalency. If the board doesn't exist, then they can't be on the CMACC. We'll just have to take it out one day.
Like
Attorney
tennis.
Moran, every time we've altered the construct of the CCMAC, we've done it in a public hearing setting.
I believe the CMACC and its activities and formation is a product of the code. So it needs that legislative equivalency. That's why I asked earlier, who appoints? Because if it's not done through the code or set up through the code, then it doesn't need the code to change.
So, Trustee Ugrinsky, you're telling this board right now that by the 25th of March, we will have bylaws completed.
We'll have something to review. So maybe even vote on, okay? But it's in flight.
That are going to have elections in the bylaws that are going to be staggered and start before.
They were
the-
scheduled for
the-
November.
well,
I think we've talked about that.
Again, and that's what I'm trying to find out, because we really should start having those elections now.
Why now, if it's scheduled for November?
Because it's been, listen,
Because it didn't happen.
Because they haven't happened in
Shouldn't
3
they have been
seasons,
last November?
So if you look at
and the one before
golf
that.
course, if you look at golf courses across the United States, when they run their elections, they run them at their season-ending meeting. Just like the Harbor Hills Tuesday Tournament Group, Ladies Group, we elect our board members at the end of the season.
Agreed.
You
So
are
there should have been a-
You
does
run
make
through the
perfect
season.
sense.
It should
However,
it should
hasn't
have
been done
been
the
an
season
annual
prior
thing.
And
No.
the one
Well, the
before
season
that.
prior.
Did you look at Trustee Laux's draft bylaws?
I saw
So
them.
in there, they were all staggered. The elections.
That's right. Did the
seats
Board
were
of Governors
staggered.
do it? No, they didn't. But let's get the bylaws in place and just solve this, right? Like, we can go around all night about this, okay? I get you guys are frustrated. Let me put something in front of you,
All right, so we'll get
All right.
all right.
okay?
So we'll get something in the next
So-
meeting.
You'll
Then-
have it
then we can
before
review-
the next meeting,
Okay,
so
in draft form.
agreed. Can we also have, as you suggested, the the terms, or when,
It will be included in the
Okay.
bylaws.
So then if that's going to
The
happen by the 25th,
trustee-
I'll withdraw my motion to disband the Board of Governors. And,
Well, thank you, trustee Franklin.
well, trustee Ugrinsky, hopefully this is not another, it's going to happen and it doesn't. So let's hope it does.
Well, we'll see. Okay. I don't typically commit to something unless I can deliver it.
thank you.
Well, while I'm still here, I might as well go into my next motion. I would like to put a motion forward to ratify or a resolution to quantify the 40% resident discount. We all received the data that the mayor requested because she's a data-driven person.
We did?
Yeah, Danielle sent that to everybody. It was all sent to all of the trustees and yourself, Mayor. I hope you looked at it, because I did. So I'd like a second on a motion to ratify the 40% resident discount.
That would be for the agenda meeting. So we
can't-
understand that you want
yeah.
that put on the agenda.
If you want a resolution, you
We'll put it on the agenda for the March 25th meeting.
For the March 25th meeting?
If you can justify it, I'd like to see your justification of it, but
The
Go ahead.
justification is in the data that you received that I clearly didn't see, so.
I didn't calculate, I just saw a bunch of numbers. I didn't even see it, actually. I didn't even see it.
Certainly,
Hold on,
but
Dave.
I saw something, I don't
Okay.
know what I saw.
If you would, the work session is a place to generate general meeting agenda items. Now, you don't have to ask for, you could ask this clerk to put that resolution on at the next meeting. And either you can get a second and it votes and it passes or not. I mean, but again, I'll renew my same concerns that this is a work session. It wasn't on the agenda, and the public doesn't think we do these types of things at these meetings. So I would recommend staying in process and asking for that to be an agenda item at the next meeting and staying in process.
Okay, and the only thing I would add to that is that the process for that would be to put it in front of the Board of Governors and then in front of the CCMAC, and then if they approve it, then you can put
Well,
it forward as a resolution.
they're a recommendation to us. We make the final decision. So if they, and.
Exactly,
and
they
again,
should
so
be
at the
making
la-
the
let-
recommendation.
Allow me to finish. The mayor asked for data to quantify my statement that
Did you put it in the
residents-
packet
pardon
tonight
me,
for us
that
to
the
review?
resident- That everybody was emailed that data, Mayor, because you didn't look at it.
It should
don't-
be in the
please don't-
packet,
Don't
But it's
blame
not on
for
me.
the
the
agenda.
public
So,
to see.
I will say, I've been on this board for almost 2 years now. We've not really been invited to add to the agenda, so I think that is part of the reason why Trustee Franco feels he needs to make these motions now in this way.
What do you mean you haven't been invited? You're a trustee, that's part of your kind of role, is to create legislation and to.
No, I understand that. but
Advocate for
I mean,
legislation.
there's never a send us your things you want on the agenda. I've never been asked what would you like on the agenda for next week or anything like that.
But
So I
trustee
think
Hill,
part
if
of it
there's
is-
something that I have to bring to a vote here, I will work through with the clerk and the various parties to ensure that the resolution gets on it.
I can tell you I've been in conversations initially with trustee Giuliano when we first started in reference to a tax cap and how to get it on the agenda. We developed that process that it gets brought up at the work session, vetted and put on the agenda. I also had those same discussions with trustee Franco, I believe. Granted, I'll admit that that's for code amendments and the other things, but I think the same process would apply. Bring it up at the work session to make it an agenda item. I don't totally disagree with trustee Hill's comments, except to say, I know at least with those two trustees, the conversations were had about how to get things on the agenda.
Well, it seems like Trustee Franco has notified the board that he would like that resolution on for the next meeting.
Right, so we can get it,
There you go.
There you go.
so we can get it on the
Now
next
we're in process,
Well,
again.
That's fine too, but I would also like to hear how the CCMAC, I'm not saying I disagree with that concept at all. But what I am saying is that we have a CCMAC in place, we have a Parks and Recreation Advisory Council in place, we have a Conservation Advisory Council in place, we have an Erosion Commission in place, we have a school district working group, we have a Public Safety Advisory Council. We ask these committees and councils to help us create resolutions and guide our thinking all the time.
Mayor,
All the time.
you're absolutely correct, but do you think that this is the first time I've brought up the 40% resident discount? I mean, if Trustee Ugrinsky, who is the liaison to the CCMAC, did not present that to the CCMAC, because I don't have access to them, all the data was provided to everyone. You could have easily, because this has been going on.
I don't have that data,
Oh,
Matt.
Mayor, you got
I
it.
don't
But
have the
anyhow.
analysis. I have
You-
nothing.
You have to look at it, it's there. But again, if you want the.
Where? Did you give it to the clerk so that she could put it in the folder that we use to review things like this?
The clerk sent all of us all that information. Came in an email to everyone. But that being said, this is not the first time I brought up the 40%.
What did the analysis show?
Mayor, this is
What
not the
was
first time. Mayor,
What was the delta?
I'm going to, again.
Can you
state-
not answer that
I-
question?
Mayor, I'm going to state again that if the CCMAC wants to be actively
What was the
involved in it,
greatest
and
difference
you
between
want,
resident and non-resident
and you want
rates?
them to be involved
Did you
with
look
it,
at that number,
this has
Bob?
been months.
Did you look at those numbers?
I looked at the numbers.
What
I
was
did
the
not- I did not
greatest
do the-
percentage?
Percentage, I don't.
From
Anybody
2017,
know?
from 2017 to today? Because that's the data that we had.
You
And-
said
and by-
historically.
Well, from 2017 to today, that was the data that was sent from the golf course. Had you looked at it, you would have the delta. But again,
I
Mayor.
requested
so again,
historic data.
historic from how far, Mayor?
I don't know, the club's been in operation since
Well,
1978.
You know what, Mayor? You are the mayor. You could reach out to Danielle and get all that information yourself, right? You could have that information provided to the CCMAC and have them give us an analysis.
So I should do your job.
Well, Mayor, clearly, I have presented it on multiple occasions, and I am not the liaison to the golf course or the CCMAC or the Board of Governors. I don't have any involvement with
And
them.
I'm not saying I
Again,
disagree
pardon
with your
me, Mayor.
premise.
So I'm saying, now that you know, I'm sure Trustee Ugrinsky
I
is
haven't-
going to take that data,
You
and
want to
she's
make
going
a
to
case
present
for
it.
this? Make your case for it. If you just
I
want
have.
us to do the work, the
Wait a minute.
research, and everything we need to do
I don't need to go
prove
any
your
further.
point?
I don't need to go any further.
I will say, you put the hurdle up. It's not like we have to, this is a policy that's been in practice for as long as I know. I think we're really finding ways to.
What has been in practice?
The 40%, the resident discount.
It's nowhere in
There's
writing.
no
I
policy.
said it's been in practice.
Okay.
It's not been.
And it's still
So
in
if there's-
practice.
It's been
I mean,
greater, the deltas have been much greater than 40%. Like, it
So are you
started
saying
out
it
as
should
like,
be more than 40%?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying, make your point, make your business case, and make it not just, here are the numbers.
Well, I will say, I don't think he has to, because I think there's 3 votes on the board to do it at 40%. So, just to be practical there. And then, I agree with you. It's great that we have all these advisory committees and councils, but not 2 hours ago, we voted to change the parking rates for the umpteenth time, and it didn't go to the parking committee. And that actually has a huge fiscal impact to the village budget. So I think we're playing kind of when it's convenient to defer to advisory
We
committees and when we're
deferred to
not.
the Chamber of Commerce and the bid, so
But we have a whole committee for the parking rates, so.
unfortunately, they haven't met, and the president and the chair resigned. So there's a little bit of this,
there's a vacuum.
so
It's
we needed
also
to get.
unfortunate the Board of Governors hasn't had elections since they've been put together.
All right, but Trustee Franco brought something up, so it's going to be on the agenda for the next meeting. And then we can, I guess, further this discussion then.
If, yeah, sure. Yep. We can.
Okay.
That's my report.
Okay. Trustee Ugrinsky?
Want to hear more about golf?
Yeah.
Not really.
Always.
No. I'll make that piece pretty quick. The only thing we haven't already covered relative to the golf course is you know, there have been some safety issue trees that have been removed.
Is Dave still?
Is he gone?
Just leave it
I'm looking
open.
at myself.
If we need to get him, we can
Okay.
get him.
Do that,
Yeah.
it shuts off the
Ah.
Teams meeting.
Mhm.
That's the
Alright.
mistake I made before.
Okay. So we're getting the trees are being cut down. We're doing that in-house. You may recall that we had a quote. It was not at what's the terminology for the rate that we needed? Prevailing wage. Thank you. Yeah. So a lot of that work is being done in-house now. And then as far as the pro shop operations, that's getting ready. There's inventory coming in. And apropos of the school district, on March 5th and 9th, there was an in-school golf phys ed program edition. So this is our attempt to start, getting them hooked earlier on hitting a ball and teaching them some of the fundamentals of the game. And the rest of the March is really training for the new hires and getting that ready. I don't think I have anything else for golf. I don't want to.
Before you move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
The tree committee had a little issue with the trees that were taken down. And I had requested Pat, previously when he took other trees down, to let me know, or let the committee know when trees are coming down and the reason for the trees coming down. And
I can connect the dots on
So.
that for you. So you and I will work on that,
Okay.
and we'll get. I actually asked Pat for a report that I expect Friday morning.
do you know, were they damaged trees? Were they?
Well, they were either damaged, dead, or were going to be dangerous for the route that golfers were going to be
Okay.
passing under them. So they're not just being arbitrarily taken down because somebody feels they're in the way of the fairway or something, right? So there is a rationale.
Did they
but
get tree cutting permits?
did they get
Did
tree
the club
cut-
get permits to take those trees down?
I have no idea. I didn't know if it's on our property, whether we needed to, but I guess if a resident has to get one.
I mean,
Right. Well, I think that was the lesson learned from Al's house by where we were supposed to put the pickleball courts,
Mm-hmm.
that any trees removed would go through the normal channel.
Even on the golf course. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, technically and Dave would weigh in on this, but I think technically we're exempt from it, but it's always been practiced that.
Okay. How about we just get the list of the trees and the
Perfect.
rationale for
That's
taking them down and
excellent.
get that to the tree committee,
Appreciate
and then
it.
we can talk about that.
Good.
There's a
Appreciate it.
document that exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't arbitrarily selected, right? This was work that was done with the bogs awareness.
You guys
So,
are ganging up on the girls. Is that what you're doing?
No, this is a
I think it's the
comment from the tree
administration.
committee.
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Sure.
Anything else on golf course? Okay, good. The only other thing I have, and I will defer to Treasurer Gafka's report because that'll include the Budget and Finance Committee. And the only other thing I wanted to mention was Monday night there was a civic meeting. I did a talk on energy in general, but I also discussed some of the tax glide path and where things kind of stand, and talked about trends sort of nationally that's also driving LIPA's behavior now. I expect that it is. So that'll be posted. It may already be posted, and then
It's worth the
and then
watch.
yeah,
I was at the meeting.
and then-
Zena, I have to tell you, there's nobody on the board or in that meeting that knew more about turbines and battery power. She was, it was a pretty extensive presentation.
Thank you. And I was able to hand it off to Trustee Franco for a discussion on Beach Street, the update, because that was another question that came up. So it was a good thing. He was there, able to talk to that.
Before you move on, just, have we been getting any estimates to do the repairs at the driving range? Or is that on hold right now?
I don't believe we have any more estimates than the original ones that we got at the beginning of that discussion. I think
Okay.
we're now waiting for the first review of the Kemper plan or recommendations, and then we'll figure out, what that layout's gonna look like.
Thank you.
Kemper?
Hmm?
What does Kemper have to do with,
I know that they were talking to Pat and to Jake about what direction, apparently just the driving range itself, the elevation.
They had
the
pretty
mats.
extensive ideas about covering the driving range at the top, putting track men in. And I said,
We can put solar panels on top.
they
it's
were
the-
they were out on Mars on this.
Right.
As far as
So-
it's like $650,000-$700,000.
Right, we don't
trying to
have
present, which doesn't work.
we don't have that
Yep.
identified as a line item in the upcoming budget. So, but there are some planned improvements to it, just not a complete rebuild. So, more information I can get you. That's really all I had.
Treasurer Gafka?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Just to go over a couple highlights in the report, I'll try not to take too long. We did receive, and it's in the grant report as well, we did receive a couple of the grants. Came through, second reimbursement for the hazard mitigation, the LKMA grant. That came through, 56,000. We did receive the final reimbursement for the tennis court walkway, so that project is all complete. That money's now obviously we borrowed to do that, so that money's getting put away so that it can pay down that portion of the ban that we took out, so that'll reduce the debt for next year and reduce the interest. Sands Lane Culvert finally came through today. It was in the bank account today along with partial chips. Had to do some deciphering on that. The state sends a wire and they combine everything at one time. So I had to go into the state financial system, the SFS system, to pull it all out. And it's only half of it. The rest of it's coming later on this week. So we'll at least have the chips that we submitted. That's coming through.
The Sands Lane Culvert, is that the completed project or the project that we're getting funding to continue?
That's, yes, funding to continue and part of what we've already spent. So we've done like half of that project, part of the August rainstorm, the FEMA, the DR, the 4839. So we spent about half of that project, and now this is the additional mitigation that needs to be done. But this is the
So the
full,
August storm,
yes,
that's one project. The FEMA hazard mitigation from Ida was the first
yes.
project. This is phase 2 of the Ida FEMA mitigation funding.
No, this is phase 2 of the August rainstorm. The IDA is done. We've received all of that funding. This is mitigation to tack onto what was done for the IDA mitigation. It was in conjunction to really solidify that whole area.
And we got that money in advance of the project itself.
Well, we borrowed, we went out for a ban, so we had to do some of that project as emergency work. Because by Sands Lane, that was, caving in and we needed to get that done. So we've done about half, and then the rest of it is to be done. But now we have all of the funding in place from FEMA, so that money will be used to put back towards the borrowing and pay that down and putting it away. But we have it. And also we submitted the grant disbursement agreement documents for the Station Street project. That's, while we had gotten approval from the state about a year ago we finally got the grant disbursement agreement, working with Lisa Motto, who's been excellent, compiling all of the information, and my staff helped her today to fill out the rest of the paperwork needed, and so now we can begin, once the board approved the check tonight, so once they get that check, then we can start submitting for actual reimbursement. But it is owed to us $306,000, which will then complete that project. So we're really, the grant thermometer, and I'll be working with Fran to get that updated, is continuing to climb. The fiscal 26 budget, as an update, we're going through some of the final revision process to get final numbers. Hope to have something to then go to Budget and Finance Committee for tomorrow that's meeting to look over so that they can have a recommendation, to the board, obviously in advance of adopting the formal budget. And then there will be, once the tentative stamped in after next week, be sitting down with Commissioner of Finance and the trustees to get their requests to see if they can be addressed with the tentative budget in advance of the public hearing on the tentative budget. So that's all in process, and everybody, I have to say, the department heads have been really excellent in their knowledge of what they need and their ability to navigate with the constraints that we have with the budget and being amenable to meet as needed to any questions that have come up that we need to fix and address with whatever requests that they have. It's been a pleasure working with them all. One of the things I put in my work session is financial planning. We've talked about it. I want to try and get it before Budget and Finance for a recommendation to this board, but one of the things I'm going to be asking the Budget and Finance Committee to do is look at all of the available kinds of reserve funds that are out there that villages can establish by law, and to see what works or what would fit the best, and make a recommendation to this board on how we can start to build these reserves, these rainy day funds and these cash reserves for a variety of purposes. Capital, for any capital costs, to tax stabilization in the future, for potential one-off revenues that come through that could be put away, to offset debt, and employee liabilities. They're just going to continue to rise as costs rise. As maybe there's an ability to navigate that in the future for the board to start trying to put money away for those reserves. I think we've talked about it. It has to be done via resolution, and it has to be with consideration of the type of fund, be it specific, which means if you have a very specific capital project you want to do, the capital reserve would be specific for just that project. Or a type, which then would be open for what the board would determine, and there's various rules on how that money can be then allocated. It has to be done permissive referendum and with a board recommendation and vote to allocate those resources. So I think the village is moving. We've gotten a lot of the accounting issues squared away. We've gotten the audit material weaknesses off. Now it's time to see, and with this board's oversight, try and get the reserves and those rainy day funds in place so that there's a less reliance on borrowing 5, 10, 15 years in the future and get to a place of real fiscal strength.
Yeah, it's also to address some existing financial risk, right? So it makes sense for things like the insurance reserves, but mainly for sort of employee benefit liability and retirement contribution. This allows us to start anticipating or really understanding who's going to be retiring and when. At least so that we can plan for it, right? Because historically what's happened is somebody tells us they're going to retire, and then, we may owe them several months of, comp time, or that has to get paid out then. So those are not surprises we want to just have, fall in our laps, right? So this is really just moving from we're just trying to make ends meet, now we're budgeting properly, and now we're moving into like a multi-year money management mindset.
Thank you, Trustee Ugrinsky. Yeah, I mean, this is just the first step in trying to get something created and hopefully to then build and flush out with, actual reserve cash and assist in the fund balance and everything with the general fund And I look forward to continuing that discussion with everybody. Are there any questions on that? Because it's not a simple thing. Okay. There's obviously the membership update. Again, you know, thank you to Danielle. She has been a wealth of insight with how Lightspeed works and how the membership works. And I've had the opportunity to work with Jake and Larry and Danielle, and I think there's a lot of good that's going to come out of getting a hands-on approach from everybody to see what Danielle does and to continue to improve the technology aspect and really really help the membership experience and everything as we all get to learn what it is that one person has been so good at doing for 9 years, right? Kind of autonomous. You become autonomous and you never have to worry about it, you know, and then once it's not there, then it's what is it that we need to worry about? And it's good to get that information. So
The one thing I would add to that also is, for me, any kind of change is an opportunity to look at the process and say, just because we've done it this way for 30 years, maybe it should adjust to reflect technology that's available now or a redistribution of labor and tasks. So, trying to optimize that process as well.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
We've also, I believe there was a notification went out to some of the membership that have not fully renewed yet, that haven't resigned. So they started coming in. Danielle actually got 8 applications today. I think she had gotten 5 yesterday. So there's going to be some late stage wanting to renew. But, you know, April 1st is coming before you know it. And, you know, if you want to make sure you're out there at the beginning, you know, if you haven't renewed yet, to get in touch and get that process going. The Finance Committee, so obviously we're going to be talking about the budget. One of the other items that have come out of the Finance Committee that we haven't formally had a recommendation come to the board is we're talking about 3 other policies that haven't been revised in a little bit. The capital asset policy, now we have a report and we're following it, but there are possibly some recommendations to adjust that capital asset policy with what some other municipalities our size do. The fund balance policy, and also the investment policy. So that is being worked through by the Budget and Finance Committee and still going through those stages, and hope to have something within the next couple of months to you all to review before it gets put for a vote to change or not change. And I think that's it, unless there's questions.
Stephen, do we have an update on the revenue generated by lessings? I didn't see that in the report.
I don't have the February number yet.
And do we have the January number?
Yes, I do not. I have to get back to you. I don't have it
Okay,
off the
no
top of
problem.
my
If you could
head.
send me an email, that'd be great. Thanks.
You can send it to all of us, if you don't mind.
I will get it to Clerk Perillo, and she can get it out through to make sure we're following the process.
Great.
So I'll get that information out. Make a note. Thank you.
On the financial planning, maybe this is a little bit more immediate, but is there anything we can do as a village to prepare for increased energy costs given the geopolitical state of the world right now?
So we try, so we're speaking like fuel,
Yeah.
gas for,
It's like gasoline and
yeah, there's,
and liquid too. Yeah.
that would be addressed in the budget process. You have to, I mean,
I just mean like things we can do, like purchasing more right now. I don't know.
no, because the price is, so we buy it off state contract.
Okay.
Right, and the price gets adjusted through the state based off of whatever the going rate is, and that's like across the board. So, while it may be a little bit lower on the state contract, it's gonna get adjusted on a weekly basis, and we get notifications that come through that they've adjusted this and to go and look at it. And there's different regions in New York State, so it's kind of out of our hands. Like, it's as needed, right? I mean, yes, you can do that if you are, but there's no guarantee that when you do it, because you think it's going to go up and
Right.
it goes down.
Of course. Yeah.
So it's really just trying to do it as needed and
Certainly
and,
speculative,
you
but
know,
Europe just released, or is planning to release a whole bunch from its strategic stockpile. So I don't know if if we could get the timing right and buy as much as we can hold on to for now, I don't know.
You know what, that's something I can certainly discuss with the DPW superintendent, and I know that our core superintendent at the country club that's been on top of mind, because he works with chemicals and fertilizers that rely on some of that information, so he's actually had discussions with his vendors, and I think even Trustee Ogrinski's been part of that he's locked in some
Okay.
prices
Yeah,
for
he-
now, just in case.
The good
it
news
goes
is
up.
Pat locked those prices in, and he placed his order already, so,
Thank you, Pat.
yeah, thinking ahead.
But in terms of the gas and the oil, I can have a conversation with the DPW superintendent and,
Okay.
without directing him but just see what his insights are and can relay that.
Anything else?
That's it.
Did you talk about when you'd have the draft budget stamped in? Did I miss that?
The draft budget has to be stamped in no later than the 20th. Typically, I try and get it in the day before just to guarantee that it's in and there's no possible issue.
And I know you've offered for the trustees to sit with you and go through some of their liaisonships for any kind of questions they might have or anything. Have any of them taken you up on that?
Not yet. Typically, you would wait. In state law, the process is the trustees wouldn't get involved until
The budgets?
until the tentative is stamped in. It's actually in the process through state law. You go through the department first, the department heads, then a tentative gets stamped in, then the board, it gets presented to the board.
No,
And-
that's not my point. My point isn't when do you present it to the board. My point is how do they get their input in before it gets stamped in? Is that restricted by state law?
I mean, it's not within the normal process, but, I mean, I guess there's
Well,
nothing.
They want to get involved and have policy input. This is the best way to do that.
Okay, here's what I'll suggest, hang on.
But no, no.
I suggest the following. Once we're close to having a budget that can be stamped in, are you suggesting that the trustees review it for their areas of responsibility before
I think
it gets
the
stamped
The
in?
treasurer has invited them to weigh in.
Good.
I've heard him.
I have received one, there was one, Trustee Hill did make a comment about making sure there was some money for sidewalks, but I haven't heard from any other trustees as of yet.
Stephen, I'd like to sit down with you, since I was never given a department at the organizational meeting, so there's really nothing that I could go over with you, but I would love to go over the budget with you once it's stamped in. I'd like to sit down with you and go over it. It'd be fantastic. Mayor, thank you for that suggestion. That's an excellent idea.
It was Stephen's suggestion. He offered to sit with anybody, and you don't need a department in order to have an influence
No.
over what happens with this board.
Oh, no, clearly, I've been doing stuff without a department. There's no doubt about that, but thank you.
I will say, if there are anything through your, and it can be done either ways, if there are something through your liaisonships, it can go through the department head to me, or however, again, yes, thank you, Mayor.
Excellent suggestion.
Have you sat with your department?
I've talked to Greg about the budget.
Okay.
I know you've sat with Greg, so I have not sat with Renee. No. Had a discussion with Renee about it.
I do have another, I'm having a discussion with Renee tomorrow, so if there's something, that you want to get to her, by all means.
I just know when I was a trustee, I did sit with the treasurer before the budget was stamped in too, and she was very welcoming of that interaction and interested in the fact that a trustee was interested in the budgetary process, and that was all that it was. So, sorry that I upset you in some way, shape, or form. No, I'm not. Never mind. Didn't mean to say that.
Mayor, you
Bob-
don't upset me, Mayor.
Bob, I know.
You
I
don't
know
upset
that.
me, Mayor, come on.
I'm sorry I antagonized you, put it that way.
Mayor, you don't antagonize me. I enjoy the interaction with you.
That makes one of us. Go ahead, Bob.
I'm going to move on to my report.
Mm-hmm.
As far as DPW, we had a couple of snow events in February, the 22nd and the 25th, as we all know. snow plowing, salting, sanding. Now the result, after all that snow and everything, is potholes. So they're in the process now of pothole repair, at least putting coal patch down wherever they can, wherever they get the notifications that there's potholes. It's a Band-Aid, for the time being until they can actually go back there and do a formal repaving. They've been doing street sweeping now that the snow is gone, so all the sand that's on the street, trying to pick that up. They did numerous house equipment repairs in-house, kept costs down. This is for vehicle repairs, especially during the snow season. So they kept costs down by doing it in-house and not sending it out for repairs. They also cleared snow from the sidewalks over at the Harborfront Park, Rocketship Park, and different walkways in the parks. As far as recreation, this new hire for custodian, or they hired a new custodian for weekdays. Winter Tide concert series continues in the Sail Loft Room. They've been averaging about 80 people per concert. So far to date, they have over 12,000 people have skated this season. 9,650 people have entered the Village Center in February. Summer concert series, Catholic Health and St. Charles Hospital gave a $10,000 donation towards the concert, so that goes a long ways in holding our summer concerts. And beach season will be here before you know it. Renee's been working on building the swim platform, getting the swim platform placed when it's time, and hiring lifeguards. As far as the tree committee, they reviewed the code section 241, and they recommended that the minor tree definition be removed from that section of code. They feel it's a little misleading, and they'd be better off. The village would be better off served without that. So it's going to go to the CAC for discussion at the next meeting. Village planner Dan Gross attended, and he will research with the planning board attorney the establishment of possibly landscaper / tree contractor village registry for those, just to see what's involved if the board feels that they want to go ahead with that. The committee offered.
What does that mean?
They have trouble getting out the information to the to the people that are taking trees down, to the contractors, landscapers, mostly because there is there's no listing of them. So if we do some sort of a registry, be it licensing, be it just a permit, whatever, then at least we build a data to say, okay, there's new code change, or hey, be aware that there is this code. We want to get it out to everybody that's working within the village.
Okay, so what's the process for bringing it to what board? What were you saying to bring it to
this
the board?
I mean, if that's something that Dan's researching it to see if it's even a possibility. He's talking with the planning board attorney.
Okay, I'm just trying to address and not be negligent to what you said, Kyle, because if this board feels like you don't have authority to bring legislation forward or help staff bring legislation forward, staff that you're working with, this is the process that goes into it, right? It doesn't just land here and stop from the work session. It goes from what's the next step that would. Maybe this isn't the best example, but I just don't want you to feel powerless, like you can't bring something that you feel is important. Maybe that's the wrong word, but to this board to come to legislation.
I think what I kind of meant to say, when I first started, I didn't feel there was the opportunity or here's the I think I said this too when we first started. It's I wish there was an onboarding packet where you kind of just knew what to do, and I'm not saying I know.
I
but
felt like you were saying
that
it was impossible.
Matt, who's the newest one on the board, is sometimes doing things what would appear out of sequence, because the sequence is something you kind of learn. It's not written down in one place for.
And you
each
go
of
to
us, is really what I
NICOM
was
sessions
getting
to,
at.
like, and you read the NICOM handbook for how it all works, like, and I remember sharing that with you too, like, when you first started, both of you,
Mhm.
right? You and Trustee
I learned a
Grinsky's been
lot
going
from
to.
the NICOM sessions.
NICOM is
yeah.
very helpful. I mean, unfortunately, there isn't an education system for onboarding trustees, but NICOM does step in and take that role over, and you're able to call them and ask them, and anyway.
I have a tree question.
They do-
I
they do-
just, let him finish his report.
They do
but
have a handbook for new trustees. There's a,
There
there's
is,
something
absolutely,
that
yep,
NICOM
and I
can-
shared it with the new trustees, but, so I'm sorry to interrupt. I
It's
just
okay.
wanted to take that opportunity to say, if there is an opportunity to update the code and, where licensed, contractors come into play, and we don't have a code that requires them to get a permit in the village like other villages do, that's what Dan's looking into, and you're working with the tree
With the tree
committee on
committee,
this for tree removal.
Mhm.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
Just what is a small tree versus, what was that designation?
It
I didn't
talks, in the
understand
code, it talks about the caliper of a tree and the diameter of a tree, and they just, it's all in the process of rewriting the whole tree removal code, but that was one of the things, the glaring point that jumped out, saying, maybe that should be, taken out of the code, but they're reviewing, I think they got 36 different codes from different villages and towns, and they're reviewing those and seeing what's good points of those, and seeing how we can put it into our code
Yeah.
for a code change.
I'd be interested in learning more about that myself.
Are you still on trees, or I
Yeah.
have one thing to? Okay, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
I
It
have
was
something on
related
trees
to
too.
code. I meant to bring it up in mine, but it's more related to the tree code anyway. Supervisor Cooper emailed me about expanding the enforcement of the tree code beyond the building inspector to include the code enforcement officers, because they're the ones who are out and about and can
Mhm.
actually be on site if there's a tree being taken down without a permit much faster than
Right.
our building inspector.
Mhm.
So I think that was going through the process. If the board is amenable to that, we could add that for our next public meeting as well.
That has something
And I checked
also,
in with the tree committee, and they were, I was-
that connects to this permitting sort of policy code. It's a code. It's a
Mhm.
code in Huntington Bay. It was
Mhm.
shared. I provided that to you
Yeah.
for the tree committee to review, right?
Mhm.
And you should share it with the board to see what they think about it, because I don't know if the tree committee thought that was a good idea, but it certainly would help in the enforcement of the removal process.
Mhm.
Because if you needed to have a permit in order to remove trees, so I don't know if you were going to say this or not, but one of the things that happens is when they go out and they stop a vendor from cutting down trees and say, do you have a permit? Then the vendor, who's a reputable, licensed, insured vendor, stops, comes, and the resident has to come down and get the permit for taking down 2 trees or whatever, more than 2 trees. They won't do that. They'll just hire somebody who isn't complying with code
yeah.
and get it done anyway. So if that's not a licensed, insured contractor and doesn't have, like, we don't require it right now, but a permit to do such things, landscaping and tree removal, that's very hard to enforce. Even if code enforcement can enforce it, it's very hard to enforce that, because they're there, they're gone, that's it. So if
Right,
they,
and by compiling this list, that's the idea, to say, hey, do you know that we have a tree code, and do you know that this is what's required under the tree code? So that's one thing that Dan is reviewing with Jim Burke. The committee offered, speaking of Dan, the senior planner, the opportunity to use some of the tree committee funds to purchase a village GIS module, as long as it includes a tree inventory package. The tree committee has always wanted a tree inventory package, and
Do you have any information to help? Because Dan talked to me about that today, and he said he spoke to you about, because the funding that they wanted to use was,
from the Mather tree funds.
Yeah, so along with the planning board approved the Mather had, when they did their emergency room expansion and they took down the trees, they had offered to, as a mitigation measure for that, to give the village 25,000 to plant trees. Right, and
Okay.
it's in the planning board resolution, and it's in the letter to the village when the money was received, that this is 25,000 at the board's discretion where they want the trees, but it's 25,000 to plant trees.
To plant trees, okay, not to conduct an inventory, so.
but
We do have that money, but
But the other thing that you and Dan talked about was I think one of the requests that the planning department's making for the budget this coming year is to include the GIS system that
Oh, okay.
they were talking about.
Mhm.
that is correct,
So-
and it is being built into the budget request for building and planning, for GIS, the near map. It's about 15,000, I believe, for
Okay.
the whole
So the
package.
tree inventory is a whole nother thing.
Right, that's a separate module that, I mean, Dan was talking about, it wasn't that expensive from what Dan was saying for the tree inventory module of the GIS that he was looking at.
It's just that, so I said, how easy is it to get a tree inventory? What do you have to do? Somebody has to actually go out, take pictures of the trees, bring it back in, input it to the system, and then you have that section is in the inventory. And so it's a manual process.
Yeah.
So staffing is a good question about that. We don't have staff to do that.
Mhm.
So
But-
we got Bob Larrabee.
Bob Larrabee would probably,
He's
yes.
probably halfway done.
Might be, he might have pictures already in pocket. But yeah, it's a discussion, next discussion with the tree committee, is there, do they want to section out, the village and see? Because once we have the GIS and the module that can plug in, it's ideal. If we can
Right.
get volunteers to do that work, that would be
They
great too.
discussed it, they said, well, first thing they want to do is start in the commercial area, in the, Main Street and West Broadway, East Broadway, and, so section, as you suggested, section the village off.
And Christine goes to those meetings too,
Yes.
right?
Mhm. Yep. And speaking of Christine, Arbor Day, is April 22nd, 5 to 6, and they discussed with Christine the choice and the location of the planting of the white oak. And so they wanted to plant it at Harborfront Park, and I know there was some discussion about, the mess that the tree might make. We have white oaks, Bob Larrabee informed us that we have white oaks already at the park over by the,
Yeah, no, I know, yeah.
over by the frogs, over by the misting. And there hasn't been a problem with the white oaks with dropping of.
No
of or
acorns?
anything, no acorns, so.
Oh,
So, yeah, that was, yeah. Bob spoke up, so we already have white oaks over there, so. So the idea is. that-
he's going to be picking up acorns, I know that.
So the idea is a white oak, and the reason why the white oak is because the white oak is what was used to, for LISEC to create the Caleb Brewster, or the armed whaleboat, so. Next thing they want to do, they want to look at educational, or they begin an educational campaign that they want to title, or tentatively title, as Leave the Leaves. So instead of blowing your leaves and raking them out onto the street, the benefits of leaving your leaves and actually leaving them, in the beds and everything, because it's good for the environment, for the soil, for the trees, as well as the, whatever's in your bed.
And for butterflies.
And for butterflies, absolutely. So that's one of the educational
And the
campaigns that
tree
they want to look
removal budget.
And leaf removal, right, you mean?
Leaf
Leaf,
removal.
yeah,
Leaf
sorry,
removal.
sorry, the
Yes,
leaf
leaf removal,
God.
absolutely, yeah.
So,
Yeah, it would be good for the leaf removal budget if people just left.
so to that end, I know we talked about that last December, and then we talked about it, I sent you a reminder.
Mhm.
Is that actually something the
Yes.
CAC is going to make a recommendation?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
what's,
the tree committee, and then CAC, we have a meeting next week, so we'll be discussing that further with the CAC, so.
How
as
did
far as
that go with the tree committee?
They liked it. They didn't, you know,
What-
there was
what did
some,
they-
there was some problems. They said, all right, so if we,
Nobody knows what we're talking,
No.
do you guys understand what we're talking about?
Okay. So we're talking about the possibility of, or changing around leaf pickup, the leaf pickup program. And if we didn't do it, what would be the ramifications? You know, it's a safety issue. The leaves end up in the drains. They have to be cleaned out. It's a whole issue for the leaves. So I discussed it with the tree committee, and they said, well, that's fine. You know, we like the idea. That's how they came up with the leave the leaves. They said, but the next issue might bring up a problem with, now there's gonna be more people with their blowers blowing it into the beds instead of into the streets. You know, and then, you know, you leave the leaves, it's good for the butterflies. It also attracts ticks, and, you know, there was a little back and forth on that. But for the most part, they like the idea of doing away or revitalizing or changing around the leaf program as far as blowing it into the streets.
Trustee Giuliano, I reached out to Maggio about the leaf pickup, just kind of doing a little preliminary research, and they said that we can, and it might be just a way, listen, a little bit of way to start the process. We can use the bulk days to take the leaves and bag them, and they'll take them. So it's just a way that we can maybe, you know, get the process started. I mean, obviously, we have some people in the community that are not going to be able to physically do it, but they said on the bulk days, they will take leaves. So maybe we start an education program with the community
part of the
to
education
kind of
program.
let them know that on bulk days, you know, if you put out a second pail or a third pail, they'll take the leaves. So, and it'll just help mitigate some of the cost to the village.
Did
So-
they mention, I mean, if you start bagging, I know if I start bagging up the leaves at my house, I would have my whole front yard
I'm with you, but
lined with
what I'm
bags.
saying is, we're never gonna bag them all. But what we're saying is, to help mitigate some of it, we can use the bulk days to fill up a garbage pail full of leaves, or 2 garbage pails. They said they would take them. So, it might be, I had actually spoken to Trustee Hill about it, so I was just kind of getting, you know, the process going to kind of come up with a formula where we can kind of reach out to the community as part of a community involvement to kind of mitigate some of the costs. So, just something to keep on your mind.
Okay.
What does that look like?
Keeping on my mind, or what was the question? I'm sorry.
What does that look like to create a
I think
communication with the community?
Well-
How do you do that?
Well, I think we could do it, well, obviously, we could do it through Facebook, we could do it through our own website, we could send a mailer out to the community. You know, there's lots of ways that we can reach out to the community. It's just, we're in the initial stages. I'm hoping that by, you know, September, I have something more formalized that I can present and say, this might be an idea. You know, and again, some people are gonna buy into it, and some people aren't gonna buy into it. I just think it's a way to kind of pick a way to kind of get the ball started.
Okay. Did you talk to Brian about this?
No, I'm gonna reach out to Brian for the MS4, just to get his idea.
So
his, input.
I asked Bob to talk to Brian McCaffrey, who's our MS4 person, based on the fact that all these leaves end up in storm drains and everything, and wondering if that's an issue with the DEC, even. You know, if it's going into our outfall, into our public waters.
Right.
So that's another element of, but what's the cost of the leaf program?
It's been $160,000 the last 2 years.
And is that total with overtime?
There is almost never any leaf overtime. They do it all during their regular workday, but that's with the carting and the disposal.
But the one thing that you don't have with that, and, you know, is if they're busy doing that, they're not doing something else.
Oh, yeah.
As well as if they're using, you know, the equipment, the wear and tear on the equipment and the repair of the equipment, especially during, you know, this year, during snow season, so.
You know, if we can start to get buy-in on using the bulk days with Maggio, you know, we might be able to, you know, cut that cost. somewhat, especially if we can get
The
rid
other
of some
thing
of
that does is it allows you to do it over time. It's not
Correct.
all at
Right,
once.
right. It's not, okay, we're gonna do this section in these
Yeah,
2
so you're
weeks.
not piling all
Yeah.
your leaves out onto the street and they're waiting for the crew to come and pick them up.
I think it would also improve, I think it would have a positive impact on the drainage clearing that we
Yeah.
have to do as normal maintenance anyway. Because if those leaves are not, blown out to the street and just left there, right, the next rain, that's where they're going. So
I think this is
could
about
be-
information too. If we let the community know, listen, this is available as an option. And again, it's stages. We'll get probably some buy-in in the first year, more buy-in in the second, and then as we go along, maybe we can cut that number down by $30,000 or $40,000 just in weight that we're dumping. So something to think about.
Well, eventually we'll have to deal with it anyway because the Brookhaven landfill
The
won't
landfill
be
is,
there, so.
They don't go to the landfill.
but they go to
Ship
ship
it
it
all.
all.
Or does it,
Yeah.
it's
They
all
ship it all.
shipped? Then
Mhm.
Never mind.
Yeah, it's all mulch and stuff. And so I guess what we could benefit from the tree committee and the Conservation Advisory Council is a true opinion on, is this an effective program? Is it a program that the village wants? Trustee Franco, you're talking about communicating with the community. How do you get feedback from the community? Because we hear complaints all the time. That's all we hear is, these leaves have been here. When are you going to come around? How come are you coming back? You came too early, you came too late. Are those the voices of our community that are telling us this program isn't working? Or
Mayor, people love the leaf pickup. They love it. They might complain that we didn't get it fast enough, but there is nobody that says, hey, I want to bag leaves. So they love, I would think that this would be a program that we might maybe try and adjust, like coming up with the bulk days, but this might be a program we might want to keep. I've never heard anybody say they don't want it.
we're probably one of the only communities that
Yeah.
still does this manually. With our crews, like a garbage crew. But Maggio does pick up bagged leaves all over the Long Island, right?
Bulk on Wednesday. Put 2 pails out.
Okay. So would you mind asking them,
Yeah,
like,
well, it's both committees, yeah.
and it doesn't have to be instantaneous, they should go out to their, neighbors and friends and stuff and try and get a true reaction to all this. And maybe it is over time, where you just cut back, and it's a compliance, like it's a social, let's all do this together for the benefit of our budget and our community.
Leave the leaves.
And also,
Yeah, read the leaves. Could
Leave
be
the
called the
leaves.
Read the Leaves program. Okay.
All right, I've talked about the tree removal at the country club. Parks and Rec, they met with the softball directors and they discussed the fee schedules of the players and resident, non-resident, and, no changes this year, but they put a couple of ideas forward to, maybe change around the fee schedule for next year as far as the softball fees. They discussed a request to allocate $50,000 towards the building of a shed for the Caleb Brewster, the armed whaleboat. They had so many questions that I couldn't answer, so we invited Carolyn to the next, from the from LISEC, I should say, to the next meeting, which is April 1st, to discuss the boat and the need for the housing and putting it into the shed. So Len's going to come Len's got to get back to me and let me know if he can make it that date. But he's going to try to make the next meeting to answer their questions. They're recommending a field use permit, a fee of $50 per hour. They found out that there's it's like an organization that's playing soccer at the Joe Erlin Field on a regular basis. They don't have a permit for it, and they're good when softball starts. They leave and everything, but Renee has no idea that they're there, and they're using the field. It's causing wear and tear on the field. So the committee felt that if if they want to use it, come in for a permit and, you know, maybe a fee of $50 per hour to use the field. They say that that's pretty standard what they do.
Are they
in the town
residents?
of- We don't know. We don't know. yeah.
There's a code related to facilities use.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
does
so-
it comport with
so-
that code?
so-
Does,
So
did they
code
look
would
at-
have to go there and, you know.
no, did they
and
look
them
at,
off.
did they look at the code to see who can use village facilities like beaches and parks and stuff
Yeah,
like
they're
that?
not up to that point yet. They're just, but
Just-
they you know, they're saying if we want to continue this, that we should, you know, the town charges $50, our town now actually charges a little bit more than $50, but they felt that $50 an hour would be good if they wanted to.
For non-residents?
Yes, for non-residents, yes. But first thing is to get a permit.
We might have to change the code.
Okay. we'll have to
Maybe
look at
take a look at
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
If that's what that's, I think there is a code regulating who is eligible to use
Use the
facilities.
fields.
Is it organized or more just like pickup
It's
or somewhere in between?
somewhere in between.
Okay.
It's pickup, the guys that are playing soccer down there,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, but it's the same group of people that
Yes.
sit all the time, so it's, I don't think it's through an organization, but everybody knows, all right, come down here at 5 o'clock or whatever time, and, you know, we're gonna play, play soccer, so. And like I said, when softball season starts, if they're playing there, they're very, okay, fine, no problem, and they're off the field, so they're not, they don't cause a problem for, for playing softball, but they are using the field, there is causing wear and tear on the field. And again, we don't know about it, they're just there using the field, so, without a permit or anything.
So, Bob, if Len
Check the
meets
code.
with the Parks and Rec,
Mhm.
and he has the discussion with them about what the significance is of the shed, and they then come to the conclusion that it is a good idea to invest in the shed. What happens then?
They would make a recommendation, they would make a motion, pass the motion, and then they would send a letter to the board saying, yes, we're recommending that the 50,000.
Would they give it to you, and then you would pass the resolution
They would give it
on
to me, or they would send it directly to Sylvia. And most of the time, they give it to me, but yeah.
and you would ask Sylvia to put it on the agenda?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. As far as the CAC, they reviewed the steep slope code and proposed code changes. They made recommendations to the building and planning about the different recommendations for the steep slope code. Community outreach, we talked about that through the tree committee. They also want to start or look at a community outreach program to improve recycling, and especially battery recycling. We used to have a battery recycling, we used to have a drop-off here at Village Hall, and the town used to come by and pick it up, and they've done away with that. So they want to try to find different ways of improving the recycling program, and especially some sort of battery recycling program.
A battery, what type
Like,
of batteries?
like,
Just
double A batteries or
AAAs?
whatever, yeah,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, I mean, you can just drop them off at Staples,
No. Okay.
like anytime. That's where I'd bring mine.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
No, I mean, they
Yeah.
do it all the time, so,
Okay, so maybe we gotta,
yeah.
part of the, again, community outreach, all right, let
Right.
people know, hey, you can drop the batteries off over at Staples, so.
Yeah, and car batteries, every auto parts store.
Well, then you could bring that
take-
to the auto
takes them,
parts, yeah, yeah.
So just back to the steep slope code
Yeah.
for a second.
Mhm.
Did Dan speak with the tree committee about the steep slope code? Dan
The
Gross?
Tree committee, I don't believe so.
Did the steep slope code come before the tree committee at all? Or just the conservation advisory?
Just a CAC.
So, in discussing that code with planning and building, who would be the ones that would be using it in their site plan review and whatnot? They recommended, and it was on, it was, did you remove it from our? It's not on our,
It's not,
wait, let me, hold on
Yeah.
one sec. So it's not in the packet.
No.
it's not in the packet.
Because it was realized that one 45 is a flooding prevention code, or addressing flooding. And steep slopes are not just about flooding, they're about erosion and environmental concerns and whatnot. So, didn't we have to resolve to renotice that, or are we gonna do that on the 25th?
I'll ask Attorney Moran. I don't know that we have to resolve to renotice it. I don't think so. I think we just have to renotice it for the April 29th meeting, once we have the chapter.
So do we open the public hearing and
I'll figure out the process.
because we
with
noticed the
him.
public hearing,
Yes, we did. Yes,
and it doesn't belong in 145.
right.
So, I've asked both our building department and our planning department leadership to take a look at the code as it's developed with the input from the Conservation Advisory Council and the Erosion Commission, mostly led by David Knopf. And to see which, there's two drafts. Everybody familiar with the two drafts? Okay. And I think our engineers feel that the draft from 2010 is more, reads better, flows better. But what our building department leadership has said, Josephine Castelli has said, and Dan agrees that maybe and because they both come from municipalities that had environmental protection or environmental, hang on one sec, I want to get it right. A lot of municipalities have this, this code. It's called Environmentally Sensitive Lands, ESL code. Most municipalities in Suffolk County address most environmentally sensitive lands, such as steep slopes, wetlands, high groundwater areas, CHA, DEC regulated areas, etc., although not always within a single unified ESL code. While some municipalities codify ESL protections in sections outside of their zoning code, most also reference ESL within their zoning code to allow for the consideration of variances when disturbance of ESL is proposed. So she says, Dan and I agree that the village should adopt a comprehensive code addressing ESL as a whole rather than focusing solely on steep slopes, and that it should be in the zoning code section 250. This approach is consistent with the direction previously suggested by our engineer, Stephen Haydock. So over the next few weeks, they will meet to develop and draft the code for presentation to the administration and potentially to the Board of Trustees. So,
So then is it premature to do it in April?
I think they feel like they can get it done for, if we notice it on the 25th of this month, they feel like they can get it done for, but if it's pushing it, we can slow it down.
Right.
But we'll find out in the next 2 weeks whether or not it will be premature. So that's where we are with that. That all happens in like real time during the day. And so good to bring to the CAC and let them know what the plan is. But this will be a code developed and probably presented by Josephine and Dan, staff.
Right.
And then they would make a recommendation for the resolution for the public hearing. That's the process that would follow. All right?
Good. And that's everything. Sure. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Just a couple of updates that touch on everybody's, but sort of touch on administrative work that happens on a day-to-day basis. We are looking to sort of implement a preferred vendor program in our village center. So this would require, this is a work session, so I'm bringing this up for the first time for everybody to hear it so that they know it's coming in the future. The RFI is a request for interest, for businesses vendors to express interest in becoming considered for an approved catering, food and beverage vendor providing services to parties in Village Center. So right now, what we have, and we have been sort of educated about, is that right now the vendors that come in to provide the food and beverage services, the catering services for the people who have their events there, birthday parties, weddings, et cetera, graduation ceremonies, they come in, we get the fee from the people who are renting the party that's renting the facility, and then the vendor comes in and pays no site fee, has no insurance, and I think we've found it to be sort of a deficiency on our part not to require these things. So that is something that we're looking into. There's a couple of examples. I've asked some staff to go take a look at what those RFIs could look like, so that we're working off of a proven template, and that we could just apply and then start the RFI process. So, and there could be as many as 13, 20, 25 approved vendors that come in, but that fulfill all of our requirements. Site fee, like I said, site fee, insurance, and certificates of insurance, and some other requirements like cleanup and whatnot. Like, our people have been cleaning up after the parties forever.
Yeah.
It's just not right. So this was a sort of an epiphany that came to us recently. So happy to start that process.
And also use the proper utensils.
I was
that
gonna
the-
say,
that's in the
All of
guidelines.
that could be included
Yeah.
in that.
Holly and Myrna will be
Yes.
very appreciative of that.
Yeah. And then, what else? The whaleboat shed. So you talked a little bit about the whaleboat shed and the funding.
Mhm.
I think we had mentioned previously that Assemblywoman Cassay has earmarked $100,000 to contribute. Did I mention that previously here? Contribute to the construction of that project. So she committed that, and our grant writer is working through the details of that. Stephen, and I'm mentioning this now because I don't want anyone to think that I just sprung it on them without talking about it first. So we're going to need to know if we have funds, whether it's in the fund balance to fund that up front, because it's a reimbursement from DASNY, Dormitory Authority of the State of New York. So they require that we spend the money and then they reimburse us. Okay?
Yeah, I'm just making, it's 100,000, correct?
100,000. And I can't say when that's going to happen, but because right now we're in the stages of the design, architectural design, the elevations, all that, and Len confirmed. I don't know if you were in the meeting where Len Carolyn talked about whether or not Jacques Laurent would be involved, because the ballast boat builders had spoken to Jacques Laurent, who now I guess works for McLean and Associates as an architect. He's a village resident, and he designed actually the ballast boat shed. And so anyway, he understands the timber framers and everything. So he told Len that he would be interested in the architecture, bringing the architecture together for a fee of $9,000 something, and would seem like a great fee. When he found out it wasn't LISEC, it wasn't a not-for-profit organization, it was actually going to be a village piece of property. It was going to be owned by the village. He said that rate doesn't apply to a municipality. So, and he might not even do it. Isn't that what he said?
Right, yep.
But we had that conversation in the 250th committee meeting. Len went back to Jacques and said, the village is still very interested in you working. We need an estimate, and we want to make sure that you're okay working with the village on this. So Len got back to me actually that same day yesterday and said he spoke with Jacques. Jacques' interested. They're going to reconfigure but we need a budget. I mean, that's pretty much what we need. The actual material, that the paperwork that we've gotten to date from LISEC is with our building and planning department reviewing. We also sent it to our engineer, who gave some feedback on what was presented to date. So the shed will be built according to village code, and Josephine will, and Dan will make sure of that. But we need a true budget for this, because because originally we were told it was going to be a budget of $150,000. And if we get the recommendation and this board approves using parkland fees to contribute to the construction of that shed, we're now being told that it might cost as much as $200,000. So I was like, it's a shed. Come on, what's going on here? So that's exactly what I said. I'm like, Len, this is a shed, So we have to work through those details, and it's not just, I'm not sure.
Mayor, what is the size of the shed?
It's like 20 by 30 maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to fit on the side of it's small. It is small.
It's not a shed like you think you'd see in a backyard.
It doesn't need the bells and whistles of anyway, we'll figure it out. But we're going through the steps to make sure that it's complies with village code, and that it's built to standard, and that whoever's going to build it, this board has to approve everything related to it. So has to approve the construction, has to approve the cost, has to approve if we hire Lawrence McLean Associates to actually design it with Jacques Laurent. That would be our contract with the architectural firm. It's a professional service, right? Do we need 3 bids?
Architecture is professional service, so no.
We do not. So if anyone has any concerns about any of this, let them speak now or hold their peace for the time being. But if there's any concerns about how this process is moving forward, Bob sits in the meetings, I sit in the meetings. We'll bring everything that we learn and what we get to this meeting, like we do always. And, so that, and you have an opportunity to voice your feedback. And anybody is welcome to go over to the whaleboat shed and just talk to the guys over there anytime. You don't need my permission, absolutely, but I'm just saying they're happy to talk to anybody about what they're doing. We're also trying to figure out launch location, the landing arrival on May 2nd, which is already scheduled, how involved the county can be on that event, with that event, whether they want to create some reenactment scenes, like anyone here go to the Sagamore Manor launch of the 250th celebration of Suffolk County? It's online, you can see what they did, but it's a bunch of period tents and reenactment people and things like that. We're talking also about insurance of the boat itself, whether or not other people would be allowed to actually get in the boat and row it. These discussions are happening in real time, and the devil is in the details, as it were. But I think the committee has, and the boat builders are kind of reluctant now to have anyone else sitting in the boat than those who are trained to row it themselves. So they'll probably put together rowing classes, but it's really the reenactors and then who's going to drive the boat to these different venues where it's being asked to be deployed. So there's a lot of details that have to be worked out, and just like bylaws, a lot of details. And it's not it's not really my bailiwick, whose bailiwick is this? Who can do this? So you just kind of piece it together as you go and try to stay up. I also wanted to let you all know that Ray DeBias, our planning board chair, I nominated him to receive the Paul J. Rickenbach Award from Suffolk County Village Officials Association, which he accepted, and also said he could attend the award ceremony, which is April 15th at the Indigo Hotel in Riverhead. So there's going to be tables available if anybody around this table is interested in supporting Ray's award ceremony, you know, him getting that award. It's well-deserved. I mean, he's been on the planning board since 2005. He's been the chair since 2013.
I was going to ask you about that because I wanted to make sure that he knew before I let the word out. So apparently he does know. So.
Yeah, he had to tell me that he was available before I could even, like, so. 5:36, you know, and it's the Suffolk County Village Officials Association is a great organization. You meet a lot of colleagues and that do the same thing that we do every day. Not every day, but when we do it. And this is their annual awards ceremony, so Ray is well deserved of this award. It really, Cindy Suarez was very helpful in pulling together the nomination details for him. And, you know, so we'll send out an official notification to the planning board, the zoning board of appeals, and others that might want to attend. So everybody's welcome. I mean, I'll send out the details if you're interested. I think we got a table last year. We could get a table this year, right? That would be great support for our planning board chair. And what else? Oh, Christine Yasso. So she's great. She works 1 day a week, and her work product has been phenomenal. She has drafted designs for to help us. So down at the Baker's Alley parking area outside of the Fifth Season. That's an area that the village has, prior to this administration, agreed to. What was that arrangement that we had with Fifth Season?
Prior to this year, we were paying a third of the water bill from June to September.
I'm not talking about this year, but starting when I started, we inherited an agreement with Fifth Season.
Yes.
That we would pay a third of
A
their
third
water
of the,
bill,
A third of the water bill for the June to September season, yes.
so that we could use their water to water what?
To water the grass in between the entryway to the parking lot and that little area with a couple benches to the
And
right.
was there like a board agreement to that? Was there like a board resolution on that?
No, just some emails.
Right. So that's how things happened. So anyway, I'm bringing this up now because Christine has a solution for this, knowing that this is a concern. We can't pay a restaurant's water bill, right? We can't, are we allowed to do that?
No.
Okay. So therefore, Christine, it became apparent, Greg and Christine got together, they looked at the area, and she designed like a pollinator area that was gonna wean off the need for irrigation. And we can manually water while we wean off from the irrigation program. But the plan is great. We'll put it in. I don't know how, I think it's like a few $1,000s. We're looking for a grant to fund it, but if we can't find a grant to fund it, I think we'll bring it in 2 weeks, maybe to put a resolution to fund this, maybe using the tax lien money. I don't know what we have to use that tax lien money for, but I'm going to spend, if I can spend it, I will.
You shouldn't have told her how much we got.
The tax lien money's already recorded. It can't be touched.
It can't be touched?
No.
Oh, okay. Oh, it's because it's for.
It's for property
it's-
taxes.
Gotcha, gotcha, that we didn't get. Yeah, so it's
Right.
not our money.
Yeah.
Darn it, right, okay.
It's not additional.
So I'm going to ask you, Treasurer Gafka, to see if there's maybe, see if there is any funding that we can utilize to help see that project come together, because it should come together in the spring.
Couldn't we use that grant from the town or the county as far as the pollinator garden? You know,
No, that pollinator,
That's
you mean the Citizens Commission on the Environment?
yeah.
So that's earmarked for Strong's Homestead Park.
okay.
That's the next one I'll talk
All right.
about. But it's not a lot of money,
Right.
but overall it's going to save us.
A third of the,
We'll make the money back. It won't cost us, it'll mhm,
yeah.
or three, So and we won't have to spend money watering it anymore. So can you see if you can come up with that and talk to Christine and Greg about that?
I will work with Christine and Greg, and we'll go through his budget and see what we can do.
Okay. And then the other project that Christine was working on is we've got Strong Homestead Park. We've got a grant that's gone into New York State to fund the passive park design, but we didn't really have a design. And the recommendation it was Christine's recommendation, and I guess agreed upon by the Conservation Advisory Council. I don't know, to put the pollinator garden in that area. It made sense, but we didn't really know where it could go because we didn't really have a drawing of what the park is going to look like. So we asked Christine to model something so that she could work with the engineer from the Citizens Commission on the Citizens Campaign on the Environment. Yeah. So so they needed that quickly. So Christine put together the drawing, and the pollinator garden is set to be located just, I always get west and north and south on that road. So if we're looking at, so it's on the corner where the roadway cuts through, the dirt road cuts through. It's just on that corner right there. That's where the pollinator is going to be designed to go. So she's meeting with the engineers from the Campaign on the Environment to finalize that, and then that's where. But the design she put together, you saw that, right? I shared it with the 250th. We'll share it with this board. It's really quite sophisticated. It's not final because Bob Larrabee's involved, so his feedback is very significant because he looks at the DEC, he looks at the tides, he looks at everything, because there is a component there that is a kayak launch, and it would require a stable water level. And that area right there where she drew that in, the low tide is mud. Yeah, so there's some reconfiguring that has to be done, but it just gave us all a good idea of what that park could look like and and if we get that grant and can pull it together. And listen, if anybody wants to sit on these 250th committee meetings, and Bob's there typically, if he wants to lend his seat. I've said this before, on other circumstances, right? Citizens Commission on Erosion, whatever. Please work together to see where you want to work to learn more about what's going on. The minutes from all of the 250th Planning Committee for Port Jeff 250 are on the website. So. What else? I am meeting this week with a civil engineering and School of Marine and Atmospheric Sciences engineer, faculty member from Stony Brook University. He is applying and I think he's applied already. He has, because the deadline passed, for a Long Island Sound Partnership grant on erosion on the North Shore of Long Island, erosion planning for the North Shore, observations and planning for the North Shore of Long Island. So I'm meeting with him on Friday to just take a look at our bluff and see what he thinks about that. The Citizens Commission on Erosion has walked the beach a couple of times this week. I walked the beach today with David Knopf and looked at all the damage that was done from the winter storms, and it's pretty significant. Took a lot of pictures. I'll share them with GEI on Friday. Again, we have a meeting with GEI on Friday. Every other Friday is our bluff project engineering meeting. Bob sits on that meeting. If anybody wants to jump in, Kyle, you've jumped in once. Zena, you've jumped in once. So you've also jumped in. So again, trying to help everybody keeping it real and keeping you informed. So whatever happens with that, his application, he reached out to me last week, first time in a while. I've talked to him since like April of 25, because I'm always like, are you getting any grants? You want to use Port Jeff as your living laboratory? So in this case, he did put Port Jeff's bluff on the application as part of the living laboratory. So we'll see if he gets that grant. And he's also talking to Congressman Loda's office on trying to secure additional funding for his work. Parking committee, Kyle, to kind of respond, not really respond, but just to bring another piece of information to your question about has the parking committee weighed in. A lot of the people who are on the parking committee are actually also on the bid or the chamber. So pretty confident that that recommendation in the current situation where the parking committee is a legit representation of what the chamber, what the parking committee would agree to recommend. Mary Ann Ketchum, who is on the parking committee, also on the bid, she's the treasurer of the bid. She reached out to the parking committee to set up a meeting, but didn't come together in time for this meeting. So these are the nuances that go into some of the reason why we bring some of these agenda items to this meeting is because they are sensitive and time sensitive in nature, and they would require some action. Like our parking decision requires action. We need to make signs. We need to get code up to date. We need to get the handhelds and everything set up. So that's a 3-week process that we have now built in to be able to accommodate the April 1st start date. And the same is true for, what else did we vote on today? Oh, the 250th anniversary. We're starting the logo. We're starting that process as this month. So putting it off another 2 weeks would have delayed the process of trying to get that those procurement issues settled. So that's why we do have agenda items at these meetings for the most part. And also the tennis issue that was brought up today, it was also time sensitive and needed like some immediate action. Even though we just got these resolutions yesterday from the CCMAC, it gives now a runway for things to happen in between now and April 1st or April 15th, when they're hopeful that that tennis can start. So that's the reason why we do vote on things out of process. But typically, it does make more sense to vote on things in process. That's the way you're supposed to do it. So that concludes my report. Did we miss anybody? Do you have anything else you want to add? Okay. I'm going to bring a pillow next time. All right. Do we have anything else, Sylvia?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Do we have a motion to call this meeting adjourned?
At 10:20 p.m.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.